All right, guys. We got Nvidia Q3 earnings going live in about an hour. About an hour, a little bit less than an hour. I'll put a timer up until after the closing bell. Really, Nvidia earnings could release anytime after the closing bell, so we'll treat them as such and put a timer up for 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is in about 48.5 minutes. So again, here is the timer for when Nvidia earnings could release. Again, I'm saying could because I really don't know when they're going to drop. Here's Bitcoin. We'll keep Bitcoin up on the side right here. But, yeah. See what we get today. Here's Nvidia. Nvidia currently sitting at 186s. Bitcoin is down. So, again, market expects Q3 revenue for Nvidia to be anywhere between like 54.5 to 55 billion, which is about up 56% year over year, with a beat and raise scenario seen as necessary for shares to rally further. A lot of people are going to, potentially watch this report to see where microchips are. And this is under the landscape of like economic fears in the Fed minutes report a couple minutes ago, as well as like microchip and AI overvaluation fears. A lot of people are nervous about microchips and AI being potentially overvalued. Again, we will have to wait and see what we get. You can kind of see Nvidia chart here starting to rise a little bit ahead of the earnings report. We're at 186s. The earnings should be dropping about 45 minutes or so. Let's do a poll here. And we're going to do another one. Does Nvidia beat or miss their Q3 earnings? Beat or miss? Vote on the poll. Are microchips overvalued? Another question we could do. But will Nvidia beat or miss their Q3 earnings? And I'm going to do a poll X as well. Again, this is like the Super Bowl of markets. So I see traders are stacking bullish positions ahead of Nvidia's earnings with a heavy call spread buying, a 6.9% implied move priced in the November 21st $200 call surging as the day's hottest bet. So people are betting on the upside for Nvidia right now. Again, almost a 7% implied move today from this report. We'll see. The last Nvidia earnings report, if I remember correctly, and again, Nvidia is expecting about 118 a share EPS on revenue of about 55 billion. This one's important, D, because we've seen corrections in AI and chip stocks over the last few weeks. Big corrections. Again, just from the AI and microchip corrections, the NASDAQ is down, like 6%. The S&P is down like 4.5%, 5%. The Dow is down 5% or so. Nvidia is down 13 or 14% from its highs. A lot of stuff is down drastically, specifically microchip and AI stocks, and Nvidia being the largest and most popular AI microchip stock, it's obviously very relevant for what happens in the market, not just today, but in the next few weeks leading into the December 10th Fed meeting, all that stuff. This could weigh on stocks, prices, everything, sentiment. Nvidia's going to come in with a surprise and unexpected one. Yeah, we'll see. Again, technically they're scheduled for 4:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but realistically they could release anytime. Again, you want to watch about the execution and orders for the Blackwell chip as well. Data center segment needing to show growth if the market's going to react favorably to this, and high margins near 74% to sustain its current valuation. Guidance for Q4, forecast for guidance for Q4 above 62 billion is what people think we need, is over 62 billion, roughly 62 billion, to ease fears of a slowdown and validate AI demand. Again, there's growing concerns about sustainability and visibility of AI-driven demand, especially as circular AI spending fears are causing worries. Export restrictions have cut Nvidia off from China as well, and so that's a relevant topic today. Export restrictions have cut Nvidia off from China sales, and new Chinese rules could mark a permanent market exclusion for data centers that the U.S. funds. AMD, also a relevant thing to look at today. It dropped a lot, though. It's down to 222s. So a pretty big drop for AMD today. They have their Instinct GPUs and custom chips. Again, the volatility is priced in with 6 to 8%. Sentiment is mixed. Some people are still fearing AI chip overvaluations and microchip and AI overvaluations in a bubble. Michael Burry being one of them. Others are sure that we're going to do good today. I don't know which one it is, but let me know. Do you think we're a bubble, or you think Nvidia is going to do well, or both? Let me know. Looking at our poll, 77% of votes already think we're going to beat. 23 or think we're 23 think we're going to miss. It's obviously the biggest story of the day, really the week. We also have the payroll report tomorrow. The Fed minutes report came in pretty hawkish. If you take a look at odds for rates here, which is pretty relevant, odds of a 25 basis point cut in December have decreased all the way down to under 30% now. We are under 30% odds for a rate cut in December now. 70+% odds of a pause in December. And yeah, still looking pretty scary. Anything that will just meet, not beat earnings, that will tank the stock. Yeah, I think if we just meet, I think even if we came in flat, markets are probably going to go down. I think, personally. I might be wrong, but, I think markets are a little bit more strict on this report. Just because it's Nvidia, they expect AI to do well. If AI is propping other markets up, I think people are going to expect AI to do well. And, even a slight beat, I think, is a sell. Yeah, I think that as well. Hey, what's up, Brand? Total bubble, but Nvidia will be flat after earnings. Even if we are in a bubble, I'm sure there's some stocks that are going to be resilient to it. Nvidia maybe being one of them, right? So we could be in a bubble and still do well for Nvidia. And regarding microchips, we did have the U.S. President Trump's aides reportedly see no rush to levy semiconductor tariffs. So again, we had rumors and talks about levies and tariffs on semiconductors. They're kind of walking those back a little bit now, which is good for semiconductors. We saw a little pop in these earlier. Nvidia is still moving up at 187s. Remember, the all-time high for Nvidia is 212s. We have had a pullback in microchips and AI stocks, as well as the overall markets for the last few weeks. So, yeah, it's getting close. I'll DCA on the bubble exit, hold for 20 years if I have to. Yeah, I think Nvidia is probably going to be one of those stocks that's still going to be fine regardless. But you never know. Anything can happen. It's markets. Wonder if we get a last minute sell-off. Right now we're kind of ripping up ahead of the earnings report in 40 minutes. So here's Nvidia right here on the right. I'll put the NASDAQ up maybe on the left. But markets are kind of popping up. Even Bitcoin is up to almost 89,000 right now. So we are seeing a late day resurgence here. Probably people pricing in good earnings for Nvidia. But again, this might make it a little bit more strict if we don't have great earnings for Nvidia. Again, 78% think Nvidia beats, 22% think they miss. Yeah, Oracle's up as well today. Oracle's down a lot though from its highs. It was at 340s, almost 350. In September, it's all the way at 220s now, so it's lost a large chunk of value. But again, look at Nvidia. Nvidia's climbing right now, guys. Up to almost 187s for Nvidia. Look at the NASDAQ, up to 24.8s. So Nvidia's climbing higher right now as we speak. Don't believe it's a bubble, but the run up into close is going to crush IV both ways tomorrow on any drop. Yeah, we also have the labor report tomorrow. Stuff's going on tomorrow as well. We got the non-farm payroll labor report. Very relevant report. Again, this is after the president announced an AI deal today with Saudi Arabia. I think, right? Was it an AI deal? Well, let me see what it was. Look at this rip up here, though, guys. NASDAQ up, Nvidia up, Bitcoin up. We're starting to move. Yeah, so Saudi Arabia was formally designated as a major non-NATO ally by the U.S. A defense sales package cooperation deal. Landmark AI memorandum of understanding was signed, giving the kingdom access to top U.S. systems. Saudi Arabia is going to increase its investment in the U.S. to nearly $1 trillion, up from $600 billion earlier in the year, with immediate deals and further commitment. So there was a little bit about AI. Landmark AI memorandum of understanding. And a bunch of other deals. Yeah, FOMC minutes is already out. It's been out. It came out at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We closed the stream down for about an hour, and then started it back up again. Yeah, I mean, if you take a look at Nvidia EPS graph, right? Like, here's Nvidia. We looked at this earlier. If they come in as expected today, so if they do come in as expected, right? If they do come in as expected, last time they came in at 108. Today they were expecting about 118. So that'd be about 10 cents higher, right around here. Maybe about right here, probably. So that would be what the next line in that graph looks like if we come in as expected. Let me make sure my math is right. 176 to 108. That's about a 35-cent jump. Maybe a little bit too high, tad bit too high. But again, we are expected to have their strongest quarterly EPS ever for Nvidia. If we take a look at revenue here, again, their revenue expected at what, 55 billion? The last one was 47 billion, 46.5 billion. So they are expected to jump up in revenue as well. So the growth for Nvidia is still very strong. If they come in anywhere close to expected here, revenue is up about 10 billion per quarter relative to the last quarter. So the growth here is still pretty freaking nice for Nvidia, to be honest. Even if you look at this growth down here, Nvidia is still growing pretty strong every year. Even if we look at like the year-over-year numbers from last time, again, market expects Q3 revenue up 56% year over year with a beat and raise scenario. They're expecting about 55 billion in revenue for Nvidia. Still very strong there, to be honest. Yeah, they have to beat 100%. There's a game that public companies play where they want to set their EPS expectations slightly lower than what they think they'll actually do, you know. So what they mean by beat and raise scenarios, they think we need to beat EPS and revenue and then raise guidance. Again, 80% of people think they're going to beat today in the polls. I did another poll on X. And you can always follow me there at Beginner Trades. Yeah, so 71% of people think they're going to beat on X. 80% of people on YouTube think they're going to be 78 now. So if we look at Polymarket and the rest of these markets pricing and numbers, again, implied volatility about 6 to 8% today. 6 to 8% for Nvidia earnings. If we look at the odds here, 86% chance. People think there's an 86% chance Nvidia beats earnings. Now, this has gone down a little bit since this morning. This was a little bit higher at 93%. At 11 a.m. this morning at 93%. It dipped all the way down to 83.9%, and it went up to 85%. I think it's very likely that they beat, right? I think it's very likely. I think, let me see what their estimates are. Street consensus estimate for Nvidia's non-GAAP EPS for the relevant quarter is $1.25. Non-GAAP EPS greater than 125. $1.25, that's higher than the one I have. I have it at 118. I'd rather it be lower, but I do think there's a really good chance they beat these numbers. $1.25 is a little bit harder to beat, but I think there's a good chance they beat, obviously, because I think they have to. I think if they don't, there's going to be chaos. If Nvidia comes out and it misses EPS, which is like margins in revenue, obviously it's a scary thing. Now, guidance is going to matter a lot. Everything else is going to matter. What the Blackwell chip updates are going to matter. China sales are going to matter. But obviously, I think they need to beat. And I think most people in markets recognize, like, Nvidia needs to beat earnings today. They need to beat earnings. With the current state of fears in microchips and AI, the overvaluation fears, the corrections we've seen in indices and markets, Nvidia needs to beat earnings today. If they don't, it's looking awfully freaking scary out there. And so, say for trade is the day after IV. Yeah, IV's always makes it expensive, especially in regards to like options. Nvidia usually has great earnings number-wise on paper for the big wigs. They hedge funds. It's never good enough. Yeah, last time Nvidia beat EPS revenue by big amounts, and I think it was like down a little bit, or it was flat from earnings. Now the next few days, I think it did rebound back up. But 55 billion in revenue. Last time it was 47 billion, so they're expected to jump up about 8 billion in revenue quarter to quarter. I don't think it's a question of not beating. Yeah, I mean, I think they have to beat. I think if they didn't, it's going to cause chaos. And so we all, if you're long in any stocks, you better hope they beat, because if they don't, not good. Selling options so tempting, you better understand the implications. Beating means like 4 to 8% higher than expected. Beating just means over expected numbers. But beat or miss. What was the U.S. September jobs report? September jobs report isn't out yet. It comes out tomorrow at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. We're going to be streaming live during that as well. But 8:30 Eastern Standard Time is when we get the September labor numbers. October's report's not coming out, and we're not going to get the November report until December 16th. Now, they've now pushed that past the December 10th Fed meeting that we were supposed to get. So the Fed's not going to have the November jobs data to guide its decision, and so that's why odds of a rate cut have gone down substantially. My long-term bonds is back to break even now. Sold for a third in profit. Or sold a third in profit. Might be a multi-year hold now. If Nvidia does not beat expected numbers, the AI bubble narrative is reinforced. 100% agree. Yeah, they're going to beat. Again, I think they're going to beat because I think they have to. You know. Like, I think they kind of have to at this point in time. I think if they don't, ish is hitting the fan. And so I think they have to. And so I think they will. Again, if you want to vote on my poll here for my other Nvidia poll on x.com and give me a follow, I appreciate it. Here's the link to that. Is it real though, even with the circular funding? I mean, that's the big question. Nvidia disappoints in earnings? Ugh, I don't know. I don't think so. We'll see. But again, market's priced in on Poly Market. It's actually gone up a little bit. It's at 87% likely they beat. Again, so the consensus for guidance, right? So guidance is always relevant. The consensus for guidance, Q3 revenue, again, expected at 55 billion, up 56% year over year. EPS between 125 and 126. I think they actually raised it from the 118 number I saw. That's 54% increase in Q3 EPS. Now, Q4 revenue guidance, analyst expectation is around 61.5 to 62 billion. Any guidance above this will be seen as a raise. Below 60 billion will likely disappoint the market for guidance numbers. So if we come out for guidance numbers below 60 billion for Q4, that's bad. And honestly, that's even 60 billion's like growth, right? So if they're expecting 55 billion today, 60 billion still growth if we go with Q4. Again, gross margins are a number you want to pay attention to. 73 to 70, roughly 74% growth margin expectation. Data center revenue, they're expected at 49.3 billion for quarter three. Investors are expecting this segment's outlook and commentary to drive sentiment as well. Data centers massively important. Sovereign AI demand, all this other stuff. 55 plus billion revenue and EPS above estimates are needed for, again, above 62 billion is the level for guidance. So for quarter four, will they raise guidance? Still got 30 minutes until the market closes. And again, the numbers can drop anytime. So I see Polymarket's odds. I'm going to look at Kalshi real quick. And these new betting prediction markets are the future. I'm just glad they have something like this now, to be honest. I'd rather them have something like this. Where's Nvidia? Did they have Nvidia here? Dude, Nvidia doesn't even have an option. It said, what will Nvidia say during their next earnings call? Odds are pretty split down the middle here on what Nvidia says during the next earnings call. Talent, domestic, or automation? Who was the guy? Didn't the Coinbase CPO or CEO intentionally say all the words that people were betting on in the next call? See what other odds there are for Nvidia. Again, 85% likely they beat. There's a 97% chance. See, this is an interesting one, right? And this kind of shows where markets are pricing things in. When Nvidia close above blank to end November, 97% chance at this point in time pricing. That might be a little one-sided, to be honest. $140 a share. Honestly, no, that's probably pretty correct. We would have to have a pretty big correction. $150 a share, 94% odds. Where are we at now? We're at 186s. So 43% chance over 190, 24% chance over 200, 17% chance. And yeah, in hindsight, 140 is pretty low. I don't think we're going to drop that much. Yeah, I'm nervous about this too. Again, I think they need to do well. If they don't do well, it's going to exacerbate the problems we've seen in AI, microchips, and tech over the last 3 weeks. And markets have been scary, especially earlier this week. Today was a little bit better, but it's still down. A lot of stuff's still down on the day. But it's better than it was. But microchips need this. AMD and Nvidia are doing pretty well, though, today. Nvidia opened up at 181s. But even with this, it's still a bit of... Like, if you look at Nvidia and we look at a longer-term chart here, like a 4-hour chart, look at this correction we've seen. We've seen a correction from 212s all the way down to 180. And 180 seems to be holding firm. But if you do the math there, from 212 down to 180, that's a 15% drop in Nvidia relative to highs just since the end of October, which was like, again, 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks, Nvidia's down 15%. AMD, if you want to take a look at other microchip stocks, AMD, same thing. We can look at the same chart from 272s down to 223s. AMD is down 18% from those highs in the last 3 weeks. We can look at MU. We can look at TSM. MU's down from 260 to 227. MU's down 13%. TSM. 317s down to 280s. Down 12%. So we've seen some corrections in microchips. And again, this all is on the heels of Michael Burry taking some big short positions in Palantir. And again, some of the biggest corrections are seen in like stuff like Palantir. Palantir down a massive amount. Palantir was at 222s. It's now at 165. That is down 26% for Palantir. And again, this is actually after Michael Burry took some massive positions here. If you look at old Cassandra Unchained on X, Michael Burry. So this is basically what happened. Michael Burry took these positions here. Where is it? Michael Burry took these positions when Palantir and Nvidia were high. There's a 45-day lag. He probably took them at the beginning of September. By the end of October, these things were at their peaks. So he closed down Scion Capital. He posted this tweet here. Sometimes we see bubbles. Sometimes there's something to do about it. Sometimes the only winning move is to not play. And then things seemed bleak for Michael Burry. And then pretty soon we started to see some corrections. He started to celebrate. Here's the circular capital that everybody's talking about for Nvidia here. How Nvidia and OpenAI fuel the Nvidia, or fuel the AI machine. Here's the circular capital graph, which you can kind of see means money is flowing in and out of them in a big circle. You know? Again, money's going from Nvidia to Microsoft, from Microsoft to OpenAI, from OpenAI to AMD, from AMD to these ones, into XAI, into Oracle, back into Nvidia. You know, circular. So, speaking of AI, though, again, I'm going to say it again. Perplexity, solid. Quick. Perplexity's fast. I like it a lot, actually. Still, Nvidia's having a pretty green day. Yeah, but OpenAI is going to be going public sometime soon. They say the valuation is going to be $1 trillion for OpenAI. $1 trillion valuation. Yeah, well, this is from Michael Burry. I know you posted one, Sam, but this one's Michael Burry's. Look, if I exit out. Look, there he is. Saying, I'm not 5'6", apparently. Who said he was 5'6"? I'm not 5'6" either, guys, just to clarify. I'm not judging 5'6"ers, but... anyways. Yeah, I don't know. I saw some weird trillion. I don't think it's going to happen. That would be wild. But I knew somebody was going to say the forbidden numbers right now. I knew it was going to happen. I knew it was going to happen. Are y'all guessing my height? I'm not 5'7" either. I'm not 5'8" either. Taller than that, sir. Yeah, they're all propping each other up. And if one crumbles, you know, they all crumble. And that's the fear right now. If one of them goes down, they're all freaking going down. That's what everybody's scared about. I look 5'4"? Do I really? That hurts my heart right here, you know. Nothing against 5'4"s. Look, live your life, guys. Huh? All right, guys. Again, looking at our poll options here, 76% think Nvidia is going to beat. 24% think they're going to miss. Do y'all really think Nvidia is going to miss today? Or do you mean miss like react negatively? Because I think the odds are less than 25% Nvidia misses. At the same time, though, with Nvidia propping the whole market up, it's one of those things where can it always beat numbers? But I think the odds are less than 30%, less than 25% that they're going to miss. I don't think they're going to have weak numbers. I think they're going to be stronger than expected. But I think it has to be stronger than expected or markets are going down. So. I would change my vote then is going to beat, but there's going to be negative reaction. Yeah, negative reaction is different from a beat. A beat means they come in better than expected. They're expecting 120, 125 EPS revenue of 55 billion. And so beating just means they do better than that. Even if the market doesn't like it for whatever reason, they find some obscure thing in the earnings report and they go down, it's still considered a beat. They're still going out, or they're still better than expected. Beating just means they beat the expected number, is what it means. given the sentiment if Nvidia falls short. Yeah, I think there's going to be blood in the streets too if Nvidia does not beat EPS in revenue. I think Jensen knows this though, and you better believe they're going to beat EPS in revenue. So again, we'll see. We got 20 minutes. There's blood in my accounts. I think there's blood in everybody's accounts right now. I don't think any stocks are necessarily really going up in any meaningful way. No sectors, at least. My stocks are down too. You know, that's how it goes. I mean, we're seeing a correction, and it's normal. Nvidia will make headlines if it misses. Nvidia is going to make headlines no matter what. It could come in as expected. It's still going to make headlines. Nvidia can freaking come in completely flat EPS in revenue, and that's going to be the headline. News of the miss from his kitchen. I don't know. Starting to see a little dip in Nvidia here, though. Look, we're at 186s. So, Palantir down. Relevant. Bitcoin pulling back. Went all the way up to 89.4, back down to 89,000 here. Tomorrow we get the labor report. It feels like Friday. All right, so the White House moves to block a bill limiting AI chip exports, according to Axios. IBM and the University of Dayton announced joint research collab for next-gen semiconductor tech. We also had the Saudi state TV citing the investment minister said the total value of deals between Saudi Arabia and the United States reached $557 billion. But yeah, some chip news. The White House blocks a move to a move that would have limited AI chip exports. What's your prediction? Oh no, man. I think it's too hard to predict. I think Nvidia is going to beat EPS in revenue. But again, I'm not an investment professional. Half the time I have no idea what I'm talking about. I am not liable if you lose money. Always make your own assessment. I can't guarantee anything. Don't copy me. Least financial professional in the world right now. Don't do it. But I think they're going to beat EPS in revenue because I think they have to. I think if they don't, ish could hit the fan, so to speak. I think even if they beat EPS in revenue, ish could still hit the fan. But again, outlook is very strong. Q3, they're expecting, again, $55 billion, which is a 56% year-over-year increase. So even if they come in flat, the numbers still aren't bad. I think market has a little bit of unrealistic expectations because Nvidia is like Britney Spears in the late 90s, right? It's everybody's paying attention to it. Guidance for Q4 is expected to be at $60 billion, I think. Some forecasts have it above $62 billion. So I think the number we need to see for guidance for Q4 is $62 billion or better. $62 billion revenue guidance for Q4 or better. I think if we don't do that, markets might be going down, Nvidia might be going down. Again, people are going to look at execution and orders for Nvidia's Blackwell B200 chips. Data center needs to show growth. Circular AI spending fears are there, so people are worried about sustainability. Below 60 billion will likely make the market go down. Gross margins, again, right around 74%. Data center revenue expected to show up at 49.3 billion for Q3, so data center revenue obviously relevant as well. And again, we're going to cover all this stuff when it drops. Sometimes Nvidia's late, though. It's not the most on-time earnings report that we get. Again, guidance for Q4, I think, is one of the bigger stats that you want to pay attention to, though. Again, 62 billion is the number that, like, if it's over 62 billion, it's better than expected. They're going to raise guidance. If it's over 62, below that, I think people will be disappointed. Don't bet the house because I said so, dude. I didn't say so. I said I don't know. I think gold corrected a little bit. Yeah, gold was at 4,100s. It's now at $4,076 an ounce. The Nikkei doesn't feel too good right now. Yeah, I mean, the Japanese market's scary. They're, you know, a lot of stimulus packages is going to dump the price of bonds and raise the yields and interest rates, and the carry dynamics freaking people out in that context because your U.S. investors are not going to have such favorable interest rates using the Japanese yen to buy up U.S. assets with it. And so with higher interest rates on the Japanese yen, they're going to unload some U.S. assets, and that's scaring people. You know, that's what's going on, in, you know, regarding Japan's situation. Yeah. I think Nvidia will beat, but I'm not 100% sure. But if it does, you're welcome. If it doesn't, I never said it would. You know what I mean? You were bullish about CPI. Honestly, dude, I don't know why, but I've gotten CPI pretty close to right pretty consistently for the last, like, year and a half. It almost got to a point where it was weird, and I thought I was in a simulation. I've gotten CPI right enough, and it's just guessing. Like, I don't even know, you know. But I'll brag about that all day. If it does beat, can it still go down? Yes. We can come in better than expected EPS, revenue, and guidance and still drop if it's not good enough. It needs to be good enough to cause excitement. Like not way better. It needs to be somewhat better than expected. Like a slight beat is not going to cut it, I think, right now. I think it needs to really beat EPS, revenue, and raise guidance. If we don't, I think markets are fearful already in AI and microchips. Anything that might expose cracks in those markets could make people panic. And so I think, especially right now for quarter three, considering the current landscape of stocks right now, and especially AI stocks, I think it needs to do well today. And I think it will. I think it will. They are educated guesses, but they are guesses. Not glazing, but you're smarter than you give yourself credit for. Top 3 smartest. No. I just gave my employer my resignation based on your recommendation. My recommendation is don't do that. Don't quit your job, bro. You shouldn't take advice from a guy called beginner trading, sir. If you do, it's your own fault. I'm not saying I'm dumb, but my channel's called beginner trading, sir. So I'm not going to say you deserve it if you lose, but you might, you know. Yeah, betting markets, I think I have it at like 86, 85% chance they beat. So again, you can kind of see what people are thinking, and just the sheer amount of bets that people are placing can show you where money is. Like, people aren't stupid. If they're betting their own money, you know, and something's 86% chance likely, it's a pretty good probability that that's what's going to happen. You never know, though. Anything could freaking happen. You're supposed to help prop those unemployment numbers up. Moo. Will we get a Santa rally? Again, a lot of people think the markets are going down now, and then in December, we're going to get a Santa rally back up there. I don't know. We got tax loss harvesting. That's a dynamic there as well. I don't know. All right, guys. The closing bell is almost here. We'll see when Nvidia earnings actually come out, though. Anybody know a good bankruptcy lawyer? What kind of bankruptcy? Are you talking about like a simple Chapter 11 restructuring, or are you talking about a Chapter 9? Or is it 7? One of them's real bad. The other one's just restructuring. Like Hertz. Hertz is a good example. Is Hertz around still? HTZ? They are. Again, we got about a 7% implied volatility. Yeah, we got non-farm payrolls tomorrow, too. Sketchy. Sketchy time. Yeah, AMD, taking a look at it. Palantir, the biggest AI stock that's turned around with quantum stocks as well. Quantum and Palantir have turned deeply red. 26% down for Palantir. AMD's down some today. I think it's down like 14 or 15% total from its peak. But AI stocks have corrected here, leading into Nvidia earnings. So that's basically right, Keegan. Yeah, that's basically right. In regards to finances. I mean, both of them are bad. Both of them means you effed up in a big way, you know. One of them's worse, though. I don't know. I've never filed for bankruptcy. And I'm not going to either. Put that out into the universe. Alright, guys. Bitcoin almost back up to 90,000, though. Let's see if Bitcoin can climb its way back up to 90K. I think if Nvidia pops, there's a good chance Nvidia pops with it. If Nvidia pops, a good chance Bitcoin pops with it. Just because of the correlation there. %20 plus drawdown from all-time highs puts that stock in a bear market. Yeah, that's probably true. If Nvidia hits or exceeds 7% scenario, which is EPS at 133, revenue at 58.8 billion, and gives strong guidance, then this, yeah, I think the market's going to respond positively, obviously, to that, and the stock could move towards the upper end. Yeah, no, I agree with that, Billy, for the most part. 7%, 133 EPS, 58.5 billion. You know, I think if we're over 57 billion and we're over 130 EPS, I think Nvidia's going up probably. You know, you never know. Again, you get all these people that like to make these big, bold bets on earnings. And again, I've seen companies beat EPS, revenue, and guidance by big numbers and drop 10%. Like, it doesn't matter. Algorithms are fickle. Traders are fickle. They'll find the smallest thing they don't like, and it'll cause like a snowball effect. So just be careful. You know, the real moves are going to be happening now, the last few days, and the following weeks from the earnings report. So non-farm came out lower. Lower payroll data will show a weakening economy and labor market, but also increased odds of a rate cut in December tomorrow. So if we come in lower for payrolls, I don't know what we're expecting tomorrow. Let me see. Payrolls tomorrow is expected to show up at payrolls are expected to show up at 55,000 for September, 55K. Manufacturing payrolls are negative 8K. Jobless claims are expected to show tomorrow too. Private payrolls at 62,000. Unemployment rates expected at 4.3%. So all right, guys. Preparing for the pump, yeah, for sure. Looks like a lot of short positions covering for quadruple earnings that are covered in cash. Yeah, rate cuts have negative influence on job numbers now. Again, I'm going to put these numbers up on screen so you guys can see these. These are relevant. On my. Again, here's consensus numbers. All right, so again, just to read all this before the bell. Q3 revenue. Expected at right around 55 billion. That's up 56% for revenue. EPS expected. What's going on? Oh, I'm clicking the wrong thing. EPS 125 to 126, up 54%. This one is the big one. Q4 revenue guidance 61.5 to 62 billion. Anything above 61 to 62 billion will be seen as a raise scenario. Below 60 billion will likely cause panic. Gross margins, again, 74% roughly. Data center revenue, 49 billion roughly. Investors expecting outlook and commentary to drive segments. Again, 55 billion plus is expected to be revenue, what we need. Quarter four guidance above 60 billion. Again, quarter four guidance is the big one. That's the one that's going to really matter here. I'm going to put just Nvidia up here since the bell's about to ring. Oof. What else do we have dropping after the close? We got something. We got PA and W, Palo Alto, dropping at 4:05 p.m. Again, it's a cybersecurity company, so it might influence tech as well for PA and W. We'll cover that when it drops too, but Nvidia is the big one. Put pump or dump in chat right now. Let me know which one you think. Pump or dump. Ooh. Just as an aside, you are awesome and we appreciate your channel. Hey, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Kind words, thank you. VIX above 20 is bad juju. As long as it's not bad jujitsu, I'm okay with that. Dump. All right, looking at the numbers here. My knee's healed, by the way, guys. My knee's healed. Kind of healed. Dump, hold, pump, dump, dump. Mostly dumps. I see some pumps in there, though. Mostly dumps here. Humpty Dumpty? Okay. Hey, thank you, Mark. Appreciate it, brother. Thank you, sir. Flat. Always dump. My Italian nanny says, hey. Yeah, just be careful. Again, I don't know which way the market's going. Market closes in about 2 minutes. So just be careful. Bitcoin's still sitting under 90,000. Again, Nvidia earnings expected revenue 55 billion roughly, EPS 125 roughly, EPS quarter four guidance 61 to 62 billion. We need to get over that for guidance. For markets to like this earnings report, of course, we need to be over that. Gross margin 73.7%, 74.6%, roughly 74% gross margins. Data center revenue, I'd love to see it over 50 for quarter three. Yeah, I'd love to see it over 50. All right, here we go. Here's the closing bell very soon, guys. Yeah, I should change this. It's about 125 EPS, actually. So, can I make it stay on the screen? No, not really. I mean, I'm just going to keep it scrolling. All right, here's the closing bell, guys. Again, it's after the closing bell anytime. It could release after 4 p.m. anytime. This timer's a little early. All right. All right, so there's the closing bell. There's the closing bell. Let's watch Nvidia closely. You'll see when the earnings are out because it'll move drastically. Technically, Nvidia earnings are scheduled for 4:20 Eastern Standard Time. Sometimes they report early, so they can really release it anytime after the closing bell. Sometimes they report it early. Again, 125 expected EPS. Revenues expected about 55 billion. Here. Let me help you guys out. Those are the expected numbers if you can see them. Maybe stretch this a little bit, but I'm watching Nvidia here, to be honest. Doc. No, it's not out yet. Again, 4:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is technically when it's scheduled to come out. But they could release it anytime. We're now 1 minute into the open for the close. 1 minute in. Nvidia up to 187s, though. Yeah, I mean, this is important. Still watching. Nothing out yet. Getting a little drop here, but nothing major. Stick around. All eyes are on Nvidia. Again, about 125 EPS. Revenue expected at about 55 billion. Little drops, but nothing out for earnings yet. 4:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is technically when it's scheduled to drop. 4:20 p.m. Quiet on the earnings streets. We got Palo Alto supposed to drop at 4 or 5 p.m. in about 3 minutes, but Nvidia again technically scheduled for 4:20 p.m. Dutch tulip market, maybe. Hey. Again, 4:20 p.m. technically. Again, you'll see when Nvidia earnings are out based off of the big, like, crazy movements. So you should see some big movements when the earnings are out. That's how you know the earnings are actually out versus just nonsense. All right. Hey, let me take a picture of this. I think if I clip this, it'll be easier. See, that's a good clip. Still watching for movements here. You can kind of see what they're expecting right here. Nothing out yet. Again, I'll cover Palo Alto when it drops too. Again, Nvidia expecting roughly 125 EPS, adjusted EPS, revenue of 55 billion. Guidance numbers for Q4 is expected around 62 billion. So if you want to beat guidance and raise guidance, we need better than 62 billion. That's a green candle though. Let's see. I don't think it's green enough to show numbers are out yet, but I think we're just chopping sideways. We'll see what Palo Alto shows in about a minute here when they drop, but nothing yet here, chat. Nothing yet. Still pretty quiet. Still sideways here. Here's a drop. There's some candle movement. Watch for big candle swings. That's how you know the earnings are out. I don't see anything though yet. Again, 4:20 p.m. Technically when they're scheduled to release, 4:20. Again, BLS is not going to be reporting. I will add this just so people can see it in terms of text. I think I have another one I can use. Yeah, I got you guys. Hold on. $125 revenue at 55 billion. I'll put this up just so you guys can see kind of what. Let me find this. There we go. I gotta put it to the top. Terrible text though, but that's all right. All right, guys. Bitcoin rising ahead of Nvidia earnings though. Again, let me see if PA and W is out. I don't see any movement for PA and W though. So maybe late. They are out. I don't see them yet. I'll put this up just so people can see it. Bitcoin rising here again. Guidance is the big number. It's expected at roughly 62 billion. So higher than that would be a beat to guidance for Q4 for Nvidia. Lower than that would be a miss of guidance for Q4. Let me see if I can find PA and W earnings for you guys. I don't see PA and W either. They're supposed to release at 4:05. And again, I think Nvidia has to be the focus today. All right, guys, here we go. It's almost time. 4:20 p.m. is when it's technically scheduled. Yeah, I got you. I had guidance numbers. $62 billion is what Q4 guidance is expected at, guys. So that's the make or break number, $62 billion. I know I got a lot of data on screen, but I think it's important. $62 billion is what's expected for Q4 guidance. Earnings reports are always fun. All right, guys, we got 11 minutes left until technically this is scheduled to come out. It could drop anytime, though, but 11 minutes is when it's technically scheduled to drop. Sometimes Nvidia's late, though. No, tomorrow we get BLS data. We're not getting the October jobs report. Look at this candle, though. Hold on, guys. Look at this candle. Yeah, I don't see PA and W numbers. I don't know where they're at, but they're not showing up. Yeah, I'm on their site as well, waiting for this release. But nothing yet. Bitcoin back up to almost 90. Technically, they're scheduled for 4:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in 11 minutes. Again, give me your last minute predictions. You think they're going to beat or miss these numbers here? Looking at our votes, 78% think beat, 22% think they're going to miss. And Nvidia is pretty flat here. Yeah, let me put some suspenseful music. Fucking God, this. Here, hold on. Looking at PA and W. I still don't see anything there. FOMC minutes was kind of hawkish. People didn't like it. All right. Put on some suspenseful music. PA and W numbers just released. So PA and W is out. It's at 210 right now. PA and W is out. I can see the stock movement here. Finally, PA and W is out. See if I can figure out what they are. I can see the movement, though. Yeah, so PA and W is out. They posted fiscal first quarter revenue up 16% year over year to $2.5 billion. So again, $2.5 billion first quarter revenue up 16%. Total revenue of $2.1 billion for the fiscal first quarter 2025. GAAP net income for the first quarter was $334 million or 47 cents a share. Non-GAAP $662 million, 93 cents per diluted share for the first quarter. And so they went up originally and now they're down. PA and W. In revenue at $2.474 billion versus $2.46 expected, a slight beat. EPS was 47 cents. Guidance was okay. Still waiting for Nvidia though. There's the link. The podcast, the webcast for Nvidia earnings is not until 5 o'clock in like 50 minutes. There's Palo Alto again, 93 cent, beat 89 cents, sales 2.47, beat the 2.46 estimates. Still waiting on Nvidia numbers to release. Yeah, Eastern time. It's 5 p.m. Eastern time. The numbers are supposed to drop at 4:20 in 8 minutes. But Eastern time, the earnings call is set for 5 p.m. Yeah, Nvidia's starting to creep up a little bit, though, but... Time. Up to 187s right now, guys. 187s here. Palo Alto is dumping down right now, too. It's at 191s from their earnings report, even though they beat EPS and revenue. I hope it's not a sign for Nvidia earnings. Again, Nvidia expected at 125 EPS, revenue at 55 billion, quarter four guidance expected at 62 billion. Again, quarter four guidance expected at 62 billion here. Very relevant report here, guys. You'll see when the numbers come out. You'll be able to see the swings from it, to be honest. When the numbers come out for Nvidia, you'll be able to see the movement. Palo Alto down, 190s. Markets are kind of on pause right now as well. Again, we're set to have about 6 minutes left until the earnings drop, chat. About 6 minutes. Again, Nvidia is not the most on-time report. They have been late in the past with their numbers. And so again, they're expected at 125 EPS, revenue at 55 billion, quarter four guidance expected at 62 billion. Roughly 61.5 to 62. And so that's the number for guidance. If a beat and miss scenario is there, we'll get higher than 62 billion for quarter four guidance, stronger than 125 adjusted EPS, and revenue over 55 billion. So again, we're getting very close to the big moment here, though. Very close. Look at the chat. What is CPI? We already got CPI. Like a worried girlfriend, yeah. I don't think we're going to move. It's a flat expectation for me unless they absolutely give great news. I don't know. We're in the middle of a big correction in AI and microchips. I think right now this matters more than almost every, most other earnings reports. I think it matters more now considering the big correction that we've seen in microchips. I think right now it matters a lot. And so, and again, I think we need to beat and raise scenario. I think we need to beat EPS and revenue and raise guidance. And I think if we don't, that ain't good. Obviously, if we don't. So if we don't beat and raise, it's clearly not good. And so I think it's really relevant today. I think people are worried about circular financing with AI. They're worried about valuations in tech and AI. We're seeing big corrections. Palantir's down like 26%. Nvidia's down like 13 or 14%. S&P's down 4 or 5%. Nasdaq's down 6%. We're seeing corrections, and I think because of that, Nvidia being the biggest tech stock in the world, I think it matters most now. And again, we got 3 minutes left, 3.5 minutes. So. Everybody's waiting for this too. Watch Bitcoin. Bitcoin's still pushing up. Again, technically it's scheduled for 4:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is in about 3 minutes from now. About 3 minutes. Oof. Here's the moment of truth. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe button. Check out @beginnertradesonx.com. We appreciate it. Hit the subscribe button. Help us grow. Government data is back open. We cover all the government data that comes out. 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. Tomorrow we got the BLS job report for September. We're still pretty flat at Nvidia. Again, 2.5 minutes left. Hey, baby. Okay, yeah. What is this? Oh. Alright. About to say Carol's got the worst timing ever. Alright guys, 2 minutes. Alright, look, here's Nvidia dropping. Look at this candle right now. 186s. Look at this candle for Nvidia. Still don't see the numbers, but could just be volatility here, guys. We got about about 2 minutes left. 2 minutes left. Here we go. Hit the live button next to the play button. Put it in 2x speed. Make sure you're caught up to the stream. You'll see it move when it comes out. You'll see the market again moving. Anybody telling you the earnings calls in 2 minutes is wrong. The earnings calls in about 41 minutes from now at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The earnings calls later. This is just the numbers releasing. Yeah, they're not out yet. All right, guys, here we go. We're on the countdown. 1 minute left. The final countdown. You guys nervous? Again, expectations, 125 EPS, revenue expected at about 55 billion, guidance expected at around 61 to 62 billion. Those are the numbers. You can see them in white below me or in yellow below those. Those are the numbers we want to beat if Nvidia is going to beat and raise scenario. Higher than 62 billion guidance for quarter four. Better than 125 EPS, better than 55 billion revenue. All right, here we go. Here we go, guys. 10 seconds. Less than that, really. And here's the report. Hopefully right now. They might be late, but here's the report right now. There you go. Nvidia popping up and down big percentages. Up to 190s for Nvidia. 190s. The algorithms has picked it up already. Back down to 188s. Still jumping here for Nvidia earnings here, chat. All right, so Nvidia numbers are out. They posted, okay, Nvidia posted 130 EPS on revenue of 57 billion. 130 EPS on revenue of 57 billion. Again, 130 EPS revenue of 57 billion. They are out. Again, 130 EPS revenue of 57 billion. So better than expected EPS, better than expected revenue. Third quarter adjusted data center revenue at 51 billion, so higher than that 49 billion number expected here. And again, they are flying up right now, chat. They are flying up right now. Look at this move here. Over 190s at 194s right now for Nvidia. Again, 130 adjusted EPS, 57 billion third quarter revenue, adjusted gross margin at 73.6%. Third quarter data center revenue over that 51.2 billion number here. So again, Nvidia did better than expected EPS revenue, better than expected data center revenue, and good third quarter adjusted guidance so far here, right? So far. Again, we'll continue to show the numbers as we get them. But again, so far they posted better than expected EPS by about 5 cents. It wasn't a huge beat, but they are reacting very well to this, up to 195 billion. Bitcoin is rising. It's over 90,000. Third quarter revenue showed up at 57 billion. Again, 57 billion. They expected about 55, 54 and a half. So better than expected almost everywhere. Again, we're going to dig through this report right now. But again, very good numbers so far for Nvidia. Very good numbers so far for Nvidia. And again, we will see if they actually hold, but very good numbers. So again, they said Blackwell sales are off the chart and cloud GPUs are sold out, said Jensen Huang, founder and CEO. Data center revenue up 66%. Third quarter automotive revenue up 32%. Adjusted EPS 130. Data center revenue 51.2 billion. Third quarter gaming revenue up 30%. Again, I'm trying to see if I can find the guidance numbers. Data revenue up 51.2 billion. They expected 49 billion. Gaming revenue 4.3 billion. They expected 4.39 billion. So again, better than expected almost everywhere. Up to 194s for Nvidia. Still not at highs, but it really is what the tech market needed right now. Again, very good numbers. Very good numbers. 130 EPS. Revenue of 57 billion. Third quarter professional visualization revenue up 56%. Data center revenue up 25% quarter over quarter. Gaming revenue is down 1% quarter over quarter. Professional visualization revenue up 26% quarter over quarter. Again, they said Blackwell sales are off the charts and GPUs are sold out, said Jensen Huang, founder and CEO. Compute demand keeps accelerating and compounding across training and inference, each growing exponentially. We've entered the virtuous cycle of AI. The AI ecosystem is scaling fast. So quarter four sales are seen at 63.7 billion to 66 billion. So guidance numbers better than expected here. Here's guidance numbers right here. I'm going to put the numbers up on the screen specifically for guidance numbers. Here's guidance numbers. EPS beat estimates, sales beat estimates. I will put these up as I can, but these are the numbers here, basically. So again, better than expected almost everywhere. I'm actually going to turn this one off and then just put this on the scroller at the bottom. Again, better guidance than expected. Quarter four sales seen at 63.7 to 66 versus 61.5. So better guidance than expected. Again, that was the number that really boosts this. We have it scrolling at the bottom of the screen so you can see it now, but their guidance number is very good. Very good. They're starting to dip down a little bit, though. Again, they say quarter four 26 GAAP and non-GAAP gross margins are expected to be between 74.8% and 75% respectively, plus or minus 50 basis points. Operating expenses are expected to be about 6.7 and 5 billion respectively. Other income expenses are expected to be an income of 500 million, excluding gains and losses from non-marketable and publicly held equity securities. Tax rates are expected to be 17%, plus or minus 1%, excluding any discretionary items or discrete items. Again, they maintain their quarterly dividend at 1 cent, payable on December 26th. But very good numbers for Nvidia. Beat EPS, revenue, and guidance, so it did beat and raise guidance. Better than expected adjusted EPS at 130 and better than expected revenue at 57 billion. Get this off the screen. Again, did y'all really think Nvidia was going to miss earnings? Come on now, guys. I get it. You might be short stuff, but come on now. Even if AI is overvalued, Nvidia is not about to miss earnings. You know why? It's because that would cause chaos. Again, the news is out. Again, the earnings call. Again, stick around because we're going to cover the earnings live. The earnings call. Nvidia's starting to come back down, though. It tapped 195. Honestly, guys, look at this level. I had this level before. Look at that level. That level was on the chart before. You can look and check. What a level right there, man. 195, 80s. I don't even know why it respected it so much, but look at that level. I'm not going to say it's the greatest level ever, but, you know. Palantir up. Yeah, most stocks are going to be up right now in microchips, as long as they're not against AI. Nvidia's up to 191s right now, 191.60s here. AMD's even up, even though they're kind of competitors. Meta's up. Google's up. Amazon is up a little bit. Microsoft is green from this. So yeah, most stocks are green from this earnings report. But again, 195s here. Revolving finance, circular finance. Yeah, top 3 levelers in the world right now, I would say. Definitely top 3 greatest leveler ever in the world right now. Hey, BDPS revenue and guidance. That's all you can really hope for this reports. Again, let me keep reading this. Again, Jensen's going to say a variation of, again, what I said earlier. AI is going everywhere, doing everything all at once. During the first time in 9 months of fiscal 26, Nvidia returned $37 billion to shareholders in the form of shares repurchased and cash dividends. As of the end of the third quarter, the company had $62.2 billion remaining under its share repurchase authorization. So, very good numbers. Again, Nvidia strong forecast helping counter the fears of the AI bubble. Blackwell Ultra is now our leading architecture. They say H2O sales insignificant in quarter 3, gaining revenue up on continued demand for Blackwell. So, very good numbers here. Let's see if it holds here leading into the actual earnings report in about 30 minutes here. Again, we're going to stream the full call live as well. So you'll be able to watch it live here. But again, 130 EPS, better than expected everywhere, basically. Except for maybe some gaming stats. I'm looking at third quarter. Here's their data center stuff. In terms of trends, let me get myself out the way here. These numbers. Again, what did they show for guidance numbers for quarter 4? I think that's their best numbers from this report. Are you guys think it's time to buy it here? Let me do another poll here and ask you guys. You are faster than TradingView? Hey, you're welcome. Again, Jensen Huang said Blackwell chips are now, the sales are quote unquote off the charts regarding the quarter 3 beat. Let me end this poll. We got over 2,000 votes. Will Nvidia break $200 today? Vote on that poll. Let me know what you guys think. Again, Nvidia numbers were good. Analysts polled 125. They showed 130. Revenue showed 57 billion, up 35 billion from a year ago. Analysts expected 54.5 billion. They expect quarter 4 revenue at 65 plus or minus 2%, 65 billion. Previously, they expected 62 billion. So better guidance than expected by almost 3 billion, really. Still doing their 1 cent dividend. Yeah, Bitcoin came all the way back down. But Nvidia up, which is good. I think the market needed this right now. I don't think you guys wanted to see Nvidia dropping from their earnings. Yeah, I just don't think you guys wanted that. I don't think anybody wanted that. All right, guys. Again, revenue is expected 65 billion plus or minus 2%. GAAP and non-GAAP gross margins are expected between 74.8% and 75% respectively, plus or minus 0.5%. GAAP and non-GAAP operating expenses expected between 6.7 and 5 billion respectively. GAAP and non-GAAP other income and expenses are expected to be an income of 500 million. Look at this data center numbers here. Third quarter revenue record 51.2 billion, up 25% from data centers from the previous quarter, and up 66% from a year ago for data centers. They revealed that Blackwell achieved the highest performance and best overall efficiency in the semi-analysis inference max benchmarks while delivering 10x throughout a throughput per megawatt compared with the previous generation. They announced a partnership with OpenAI to deploy at least 10 gigawatts of Nvidia systems for OpenAI's next generation AI infrastructure. A lot of announcements, yeah. Again, the Nvidia conference call is going to be at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's in 27 minutes. Yeah, September jobs report is tomorrow. They're expecting what? I think it's like 55,000 jobs or something like that. Yeah, for tomorrow they're expecting like, I think it's like, I know it's not in the triple digits. I know it's not in the triple digits. They're expecting, for payrolls tomorrow, they're expecting 55,000, 55K. Nvidia getting close to highs here, guys, after good numbers. You can see, read the numbers on the bottom of the screen. Better than expected EPS, revenue, and guidance numbers here for Nvidia. Roughly 65 billion guidance. They expected 62, again, 57 billion revenue. The BLS canceled the October jobs report since the government was closed. The one we're getting tomorrow is actually the September report. It's at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time tomorrow. Again, subscribe, hit the notification bell. We'll cover it live, 8:30. Again, did anybody think Nvidia would miss earnings? I'm still confused about that. You guys got to understand odds here, you know? Still waiting for the actual call here, and the call is going to be, again, the earnings call specifically is going to be 5 o'clock. Do I have it in sub-only mode? Dude, it's weird. I turned sub-only mode off, right? But for some reason, it forces me to put it on. I don't know why. It's strange. Oh, well. Had me worried? Worried about what? I told you guys we would probably beat. I mean, again, I think we had to beat. I think if we didn't beat, markets are going to freak out. And so I think we had to beat EPS and revenue. Where do you read these reports from so fast? I got a bunch of sources. Honestly, my bottom monitor that you guys can't see is a 49-inch ultra wide monitor. Like, this thing spans from here all the way over here. So what I do, honestly, realistically, is I put a bunch of different sources up at once. And I've got like 1.5 gig internet. So it's quick. So that mixed with the big monitor, I can just put a bunch of different sources up and refresh as fast as possible. Michael Burry's probably still living life, realistically. I mean, Nvidia's back up, but everything's not back up. He is probably shorting Nvidia, though. Let's see. He closed Scion Capital, so we're not able to see what he's doing. Tomorrow above 200, Friday below 200. Yeah, I did a poll here. Will Nvidia break $200 today? 58% say yes. I hope so. We're back up to almost 195. $200 is just right here. So we are right here right now. So we're very close to that number. Big psychological level too with a big earnings day. I think it's possible for sure that we break 100. Obviously, we'd have to hear good things during the call in 25 minutes. But I tend to think we will. But who knows? Michael Burry will be right one day. Listen, you keep throwing darts at a dartboard, eventually you're going to hit it. You know, I already gave my times table to what Burry was doing here. This is my times table for it. Burry shorted Nvidia and Palantir at pretty high levels. At the end of October, which was 45 days after he took those positions, he was probably underwater. That's when I think he posted this. Sometimes we see bubbles. Sometimes there's something to do about it. Sometimes the only winning move is to not play. And then he also sent a letter to Scion management, essentially closing down Scion. And then a week later, everything dropped. So I don't know if he got back in or if he had to close those positions or what the deal is. You know, a lot of people speculate that Burry simply went private to avoid having to file it quarterly and hear crap from finance bros like me. I don't know if that's what's going on, but again, Bitcoin back over 90, holding it. Look at that level right there on Bitcoin too. Holding at 90. 20 minutes left, chat. If I was Michael Burry, I'd probably be pretty freaking skeptical of everybody too. No, you wouldn't? You wouldn't distrust the system if you told everybody a mortgage crisis was coming. They ignored you. You made billions for people who sued you. You know, I might distrust the system too if I'm Burry, realistically. But he's over-predicted crashes at this point. He might be right about this one, though. If tomorrow's reports are bad, specifically the September BLS report, I think we get jobless claims tomorrow as well. If tomorrow's reports are bad, shouldn't that be a good thing as far as getting a rate cut next month? Yes. If September, it's not the most relevant labor report versus rate cuts in December, but it's still going to move it a little bit. So yes, I think if tomorrow's reports are bad, it'll increase the odds of a rate cut. Did I short AMD? No, I'm not shorting AMD. Again, I'm not really interested necessarily in shorting some of the healthiest assets in the world. I get it. I get why people like chase that. They watch The Big Short. They romanticize it. They want to start shorting, you know, Nvidia and Apple and all that stuff. And I get it, you know. But I'm not that type of person, you know. I would rather just dollar cost average into those things long term and make lots of money easily without worry, you know. I think it's so difficult to do that correctly and to time it correctly that they make movies about it when people do it successfully because it's so freaking rare. And I'm just rather play the better odds, so to speak, you know. And the better odds are on the long side, long term. Short term, who knows what's going to happen. Long term, if you average in, again, I'm going to put this out there. I'm not an investment professional. I'm not liable if you lose money. Make your own assessment, trade smart. I can't guarantee anything. I'm not an investment professional. But the long side, it's pretty freaking easy to make money long term. You average in it and you sit in it. You don't buy penny stocks. You don't buy mid caps. You buy healthy assets. You dollar cost average into it and you sit on it for decades. That's the recipe. Warren Buffett knows. John doesn't short companies to hurt people's jobs. I'm not doing it for moral reasons. I'm doing it for selfish reasons. You know why I'm not shorting Apple? It's because it's one of the healthiest stocks in the world. I think that's dumb. Not necessarily dumb. Some people can do it successfully. But I'm not one of those people. You know. I'd love to pretend I was self-righteous and do it for moral reasons. And act like I'm doing it for the good of the world. Bro, if I thought I could make money, I'd be shorting everything. I should lie about it, but like, I'm just going to be real. If I thought I could make money shorting those things, I would short the heck out of them. Yeah, I think a lot of people expected to get pullbacks and then a Santa rally into December. I don't know. This is looking really flag-like, but it's still pretty early. We'll see what Nvidia does during the call. Rate cuts are bearish. Are they? I don't know. I think the market wants rate cuts too. And I think ending quantitative tightening got people excited. I don't know if they're bearish. I think I think they can be either one. If it's too big of a cut too quickly, if it's a surprise, it can make people panic and it can induce panic and cause problems on the downside. But if it's a calculated rate cut that shows more stimulus for the economy, stimulation for the economy, that's a lot of the time bullish, but I think it depends. Nuanced. Ability like water. This is a 1 minute chart because we're looking at earnings that just dropped 12 minutes ago. Or 23 minutes ago. So we're looking at short-term reactions here. As well as I got a bunch of charts up below you that you can't see. All times at 5 p.m. Eastern time. If you know Nvidia, then you know anything can happen, but this is definitely the pop. There's definitely more upside or downside, but hopefully upside. This is wave one earnings call will bring more SE 210 plus. Yeah, we'll have to watch for the next few weeks to see what the real reaction is from earnings, but so far it's green, like a decent percentage green. What did they expect? 7%? We are up, what, about $10 a share in a $200 company? That's almost 10%. We're really right about, what, 8 or 9% just by eyeballing it. We're a little bit less than $200, and it's a little bit less than a $10 move. So you can call that 10%. Yeah. We're up about 10%, really. Maybe a little bit less, maybe like 9%, right? So it was better than the 7% implied volatility that we saw. When estimate for real GDP growth is 4 to 2% annual rate, probably we shouldn't do rate cuts. It's also inflation. Just keeping it real. Yeah, I mean, listen, rate cuts can be bittersweet. They can cause inflation problems, and a lot of people are going to argue we're in a stagflation situation right now. We got inflation over 3%. We got, weak labor data that we're seeing in, BLS data. The ADP data Tuesday was negative 2,500 weekly job numbers. So, I mean, negative job numbers is never freaking good. So we're definitely seeing weak labor data, but we're also seeing inflation pressure. 3% is not the worst it could be. Again, after the 2020 super stimulus we did with QE and also the supply chain problems of 2020 and lockdowns and stimulus checks and all the things that caused inflation from 2020, by 23, we were at 9 or 10% inflation, right? So 3% is not the worst it could be, but it's not good either. And it's definitely above their target. But, if I want to make $1 billion and I make 800 million, I'm pretty happy with that. But yeah, I mean, it's not good. I don't know if we're stagflation in terms of inflation yet, but I certainly think we see some stagnation in labor for sure. And I think at a certain point, labor has to become the priority. Because if not, then we go into a recession and then we got to super ease and then it causes more inflation, if that makes sense. So, yeah. Don't worry about that little wick right here. That's nothing. That's probably just a random order that somehow got filled in the platform. Again, Jensen Huang is going to speak on Bloomberg TV at freaking military time. At 6:30 Eastern. 6:30 Eastern. Jensen Huang, Bloomberg TV. Again, Nvidia beat EPS, beat revenue, beat guidance numbers. Yeah, that was the Super Troopers reference, by the way. I know. I get what you're putting down there. I understand. Yeah, Nvidia up to 195s. All right, guys. Are you bullish or bearish for the earnings call? Will we go up more? Will we break $200 a share? That's what I asked on my poll. 60% think yes, we do break $200 today. 40% think no. Gold? I don't know. Gold's kind of flat overall from the day. I don't know. Bullish? Put bull or bear right now in chat. Let me know how you feel. Yeah, the earnings call for Nvidia is going to be in about 11 minutes or so. 11 minutes. We're going to stream the whole thing live. Let me switch my headphones out. My daughter, bro. I got AirPods 5 days. I didn't know where they were. My daughter snatched those things, bro. She saw a good pair of AirPods. Couldn't help it. All right. All right, so I'm seeing mostly bulls in chat. I see some bears. I see bear, bullish, 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 bull, bull, man, bull. Healthy pullbacks never hurt. Still a bull in AI prospect. They may pick one word, searching for a word risk somewhere. I'm bull, but buckling the seatbelt for the ride. Last earnings, they beat expectations and still fell 11% in 8 days right after. Yeah, I think the guidance numbers are pretty good on this one, though. I think the guidance coming in at 65 billion looks pretty optimistic for them. I told you guys before, again, like, one of the weird dynamics that I see is, like, and I don't know if it's just how bears are, personally. People call me a permabull. I'm not, but they call me that. Bears get mad, I guess it makes sense, when Nvidia beats EPS revenue and guidance. They were upset. I'm not sure why. I saw people upset when Nvidia ripped up and had good numbers. And again, they did better than expected. The weakest thing, I think, for their numbers was their EPS only being 5 cents above estimates. Original estimates was like 118, though. So if you calculated by that, it was 12 cents higher than expected. You know, decent percentage. What is that? Like 10%, 9%, something. And so even if you look at that metric, it's still pretty good. I never get upset when the company beats earnings, though. Bullish but careful. I mean, I'm definitely bullish, but not $200 bullish today. I mean, $200 is just right here. We're right here. So I'm basically asking, will Nvidia get over this and hold? I don't know. Doesn't mean it will, but... because Nvidia follows the market. Or not Nvidia. Somebody's saying, why is Bitcoin pumping with good Nvidia numbers? To be honest, because Bitcoin has been kind of following the market, influencing the market. The market's influencing Bitcoin. And Nvidia influences the market as well. Right, so Nvidia influences the market. It's all tech related, so Bitcoin has some. It's called sympathy movement. If you look at most stocks, they're really behaving in the same way. It's not just Bitcoin, right? If you look at like even AMD, which is a competitor, is ripping up right now. Like look at AMD. This is a competitor to Nvidia right now, but AMD is up. You know, from this, so it's called sympathy movement. What it is. Good day though for markets here. Good day. $232s for AMD. AMD's honestly doing kind of better than Nvidia. I mean, look. AMD's currently at 232s from this report. Bitcoin's back over 90K though. About TSM. TSM is up. Google's up. Amazon is up. Microsoft's up. Meta's up. So. Intel? What's Intel doing? Intel's up to 35s. Good day for Intel, too. I'm bearish, but also was hoping if Nvidia missed, it would force the market to address the other issues. CoreWeave, what is it? CRWV? Yeah, CoreWeave's up to $80 a share. How's quantum stocks right now? Quantum stocks are up from this report too. Yeah, I think most tech stocks are just moving in sympathy. It's what's called sympathy movement with Nvidia right now. I think that's something that we're seeing is just sympathy movement. You gotta have more faith in this AI market. I don't have a lack of faith. I think AI is the future. I use AI regularly. I think it's incredibly, I think it's obviously going to be the future of technology. I think it already is to a certain point. I think if you, again, I've said this once, I'll say it again. I'll say it over and over again because this is what I genuinely believe. I think if you look at how much AI has gotten better in 3 years, 4 years, and you extrapolate that over 30, AI is going to be crazy good. Crazy good. It's going to enwrap everything with technology and life, really. And it already kind of is. And so I'm incredibly bullish over AI and technology over long periods of time. Short term, I don't know what's going to happen because .com crash in 2000. Internet was that next big thing in hindsight. We still had a long bear market from it in 2000. So doesn't mean we're not going to dump, but you know, when in doubt, zoom out. And I think when you do that with Nvidia and AI and microchips, you know, it's going to be crazy growth. You should be nervous. Yeah. People will marry AI. Yeah, but people are already marrying dolls and dumb stuff like that too, so is it really that much different? I'll put it this way. If I had a doll as a wife, right? I don't, by the way. I have a human wife. But if I did, I might transition to an AI, you know. It'd probably be a little bit, if I was lonely, it might be more meaningful, you know. I can't really judge him for it. I think it's weird. It's, you know, I think it's hella weird, but you know. as long as they don't have defense mechanisms in these AI systems, I guess I'm okay with it. You know, we need to learn from the movies in sci-fi and Terminator. They better not have defense mechanisms. That's the number one priority I think we should have. And I think to a certain extent, we're also growing so quickly and there's so much money flowing into it that we might be ignoring some of those necessary traits. But, you know, we'll see what happens. All right, guys. 4 minutes. Let's see what we get. I'm ready. All right, guys, we are here. We are ready. Waiting for the earnings call to start here, guys. We're here. We're ready. Four minutes. Make sure you hit the live button. Put it in 2x speed. We appreciate it. All right, so I'm seeing a report that says Nvidia's blowout revenue outlook ignited a late-day tech rally, lifting the Nasdaq 100 ETF and the S&P as investors shrugged off recent volatility, recalibrated AI growth expectations, and digested hawkish Fed minutes, weaker crypto, failing oil, flood of major corporate earnings, Adobe, SEM, Musk's XAI unveiling a 500 million megawatt Saudi data center plan. Again, Jensen Huang said Blackwell sales are off the charts and cloud GPUs are sold out. Compute demand keeps accelerating and compounding across training and inference, each growing exponentially. We've entered the virtuous cycle of AI. The AI ecosystem is scaling fast with more new foundation model makers and more AI startups across more industries and in more countries. AI is going everywhere, doing everything all at once. You guys agree with this? All right, guys, we got less than 3 minutes here. We got about 2.5 minutes before this call starts. And we're going to stream the whole call here live. We're going to make sure the volume is loud as well. So. All right, I'm going to turn the music off for a second, just so I can start calibrating my volume, to be honest, for this call. So again, stick around, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We appreciate it. And that way I can actually calibrate this call. All right, guys, let me turn this volume up. I'm going to make sure it's loud enough so you guys can hear it. Forgive me if it's too loud. Just let me know when it starts if it's too loud or not. We got about 1.5 minutes left. The call. I should have kept all my Nvidia calls. I sold a couple last minute during market open. Yeah, I mean, the AI market's been scary. I can't really blame you for it. You know? Yeah. Can't really blame you. All right, guys. Again, hit the live button next to the play button. Put it in 2x speed to make sure you're real time on the call. Call's about to start. Again, I got the window up here. I'm just waiting. Okay, I think it's about to start right now. Oh, they're just restarting the music. Gotcha. Again, check out Top Step if you want to help support the channel. There's no PDT in futures. You can day trade the S&P, NASDAQ, Dow, Russell, gold, some currencies. Beautiful way to learn how to day trade with limited risk. Most day traders lose money. So check it out right here. Beautiful way to learn. Best in the game. Here's the link. I'll pin it to the top of the chat. All right. Waiting for this to start. When it does start, let me know if the sound is good. It just started back up. I don't hear anything, though. Give him a second. Up. And
Good afternoon. My name is Sarah, and I will be your conference operator today. At this time, I would like to welcome everyone to Nvidia's third quarter earnings call. All lines have been placed on mute to prevent any background noise. After the speaker's remarks, there will be a question and answer session. If you would like to ask a question during this time, simply press star, followed by the number 1 on your telephone keypad. If you would like to withdraw your question, press star 1 again. Thank you. Toshiya Hari, you may begin your conference.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to NVIDIA's conference call for the third quarter of fiscal 2026. With me today from NVIDIA are Jensen Huang, President and Chief Executive Officer, and Colette Kress, Executive Vice President and Chief Financial Officer. I'd like to remind you that our call is being webcast live on NVIDIA's Investor Relations website. The webcast will be available for replay until the conference call to discuss our financial results for the fourth quarter of fiscal 2026. The content of today's call is NVIDIA's property. It can't be reproduced or transcribed without our prior written consent. During this call, we may make forward-looking statements based on current expectations. These are subject to a number of significant risks and uncertainties, and our actual results may differ materially. For a discussion of factors that could affect our future financial results and business, please refer to the disclosure in today's earnings release, our most recent Forms 10-K and 10-Q, and the reports that we may file on Form 8-K with the Securities and Exchange Commission. All our statements are made as of today, November 19th, 2025, based on information currently available to us. Except as required by law, we assume no obligation to update any such statements. During this call, we will discuss non-GAAP financial measures. You can find a reconciliation of these non-GAAP financial measures to GAAP financial measures in our CFO commentary, which is posted on our website. With that, let me turn the call over to Colette.
Thank you, Toshia. We delivered another outstanding quarter with revenue of $57 billion, up 62% year over year, and a record sequential revenue growth of $10 billion, or 22%. Our customers continue to lean into three platform shifts, fueling exponential growth for accelerated computing, powerful AI models, and agentic applications. Yet, we are still in the early innings of these transitions that will impact our work across every industry. We currently have visibility to $500 billion in Blackwell and Rubin revenue from the start of this year through the end of calendar year 2026. By executing our annual product cadence and extending our performance leadership through full stack design, we believe Nvidia will be the superior choice for the $3 to $4 trillion in annual AI infrastructure build we estimate by the end of the decade. Demand for AI infrastructure continues to exceed our expectations. The clouds are sold out, and our GPU installed base, both new and previous generations, including Blackwell, Hopper, and Ampere, is fully utilized. Record Q3 data center revenue of $51 billion increased 66% year over year, a significant feat at our scale. Compute grew 56% year over year, driven primarily by the GB300 ramp, while networking more than doubled, given the onset of NVLink scale-up and robust double-digit growth across Spectrum X Ethernet and Quantum X InfiniBand. The world hyperscalers, a $1 trillion industry, are transforming search, recommendations, and content understanding from classical machine learning to generative AI. Nvidia CUDA excels at both and is the ideal platform for this transition, driving infrastructure investment measured in hundreds of billions of dollars. At Meta, AI recommendation systems are delivering higher quality and more relevant content, leading to more time spent on apps such as Facebook and Threads. Analyst expectations for the top CSPs and hyperscalers in 2026 aggregate CapEx have continued to increase and now sit roughly at $600 billion, more than $200 billion higher relative to the start of the year. We see the transition to accelerated computing and generative AI across current hyperscale workloads contributing toward roughly half of our long-term opportunity. Another growth pillar is the ongoing increase in compute spend driven by foundation model builders such as Anthropic, Mistral, OpenAI, Reflection, Safe Superintelligence, Thinking Machines Lab, and xAI, all scaling compute aggressively to scale intelligence. The three scaling laws, pre-training, post-training, and inference, remain intact. In fact, we see a positive virtuous cycle emerging whereby the three scaling laws and access to compute are generating better intelligence and in turn increasing adoption and profits. OpenAI recently shared that their weekly user base has grown to 800 million. Enterprise customers has increased to 1 million, and that their gross margins were healthy. While Anthropic recently reported that its annualized run rate revenue has reached $7 billion as of last month, up from $1 billion at the start of the year. We are also witnessing a proliferation of agentic AI across various industries and tasks. Companies such as Cursor, Anthropic, Open Evidence, Epic, and Abridge are experiencing a surge in user growth as they supercharge the existing workforce, delivering unquestionable ROI for coders and healthcare professionals. The world's most important enterprise software platforms like ServiceNow, CrowdStrike, and SAP are integrating NVIDIA's accelerated computing and AI stack. Our new partner, Palantir, is supercharging the incredibly popular ontology platform with NVIDIA CUDA-X libraries and AI models for the first time. Previously, like most enterprise software platforms, ontology runs only on CPUs. Lowe's is leveraging the platform to build supply chain agility, reducing costs and improving customer satisfaction. Enterprises broadly are leveraging AI to boost productivity, increase efficiency, and reduce cost. RBC is leveraging agentic AI to drive significant analyst productivity, slashing report generation time from hours to minutes. AI and digital twins are helping Unilever accelerate content creation by 2x and cut costs by 50%. And Salesforce's engineering team has seen at least 30% productivity increase in new code development after adopting Cursor. This past quarter, we announced AI factory and infrastructure projects amounting to an aggregate of 5 million GPUs. This demand spans every market: CSPs, sovereigns, model builders, enterprises, and supercomputing centers, and includes multiple landmark buildouts. xAI's Colossus 2, the world's first gigawatt-scale data center. Lilly's AI factory for drug discovery, the pharmaceutical industry's most powerful data center. And just today, AWS and Humane expanded their partnership, including the deployment of up to 150,000 AI accelerators, including our GB300. xAI and Humane also announced a partnership in which the two will jointly develop a network of world-class GPU data centers anchored by the flagship 500 megawatt facility. Blackwell gained further momentum in Q3 as GB300 crossed over GB200 and contributed roughly 2/3 of the total Blackwell revenue. The transition to GB300 has been seamless, with production shipments to the major cloud service providers, hyperscalers, and GPU clouds, and is already driving their growth. The Hopper platform, in its 13th quarter since inception, recorded approximately $2 billion in revenue in Q3. H20 sales were approximately $50 million. Sizable purchase orders never materialized in the quarter due to geopolitical issues and the increasingly competitive market in China. While we were disappointed in the current state that prevents us from shipping more competitive data center compute products to China, we are committed to continued engagement with the US and China governments, and will continue to advocate for America's ability to compete around the world. To establish a sustainable leadership position in AI computing, America must win the support of every developer and be the platform of choice for every commercial business, including those in China. The Rubin platform is on track to ramp in the second half of 2026. Powered by 7 chips, the Vera Rubin platform will once again deliver an X-factor improvement in performance relative to Blackwell. We have received silicon back from our supply chain partners and are happy to report that NVIDIA teams across the world are executing the bring up beautifully. Rubin is our 3rd generation rack scale system, substantially redefined the manufacturability while remaining compatible with Grace Blackwell. Our supply chain, data center, ecosystem, and cloud partners have now mastered the build to installation process of NVIDIA's rack architecture. Our ecosystem will be ready for a fast Rubin ramp. Our annual X-factor performance leap increases performance per dollar while driving down computing costs for our customers. The long useful life of NVIDIA's CUDA GPUs is a significant TCO advantage over accelerators. CUDA's compatibility and our massive installed base extend the life of NVIDIA systems well beyond their original estimated useful life. For more than 2 decades, we have optimized the CUDA ecosystem, improving existing workloads, accelerating new ones, and increasing throughput with every software release. Most accelerators without CUDA and NVIDIA's time-tested and versatile architecture became obsolete within a few years as model technologies evolve. Thanks to CUDA, the A100 GPUs we shipped 6 years ago are still running at full utilization today, powered by vastly improved software stack. We have evolved over the past 25 years from a gaming GPU company to now an AI data center infrastructure company. Our ability to innovate across the CPU, the GPU, networking, and software, and ultimately drive down cost per token is unmatched across the industry. Our networking business, purpose-built for AI, and now the largest in the world, generated revenue of $8.2 billion, up 162% year over year, with NVLink, InfiniBand, and Spectrum-X Ethernet all contributing to growth. We are winning in data center networking as the majority of AI deployments now include our switches with Ethernet GPU attach rates roughly on par with InfiniBand. Meta, Microsoft, Oracle, and xAI are building gigawatt AI factories with Spectrum-X Ethernet switches, and each will run its operating system of choice, highlighting the flexibility and openness of our platform. We recently introduced Spectrum XGS, a scale-across technology that enables gigascale AI factories. NVIDIA is the only company with AI scale-up, scale-out, and scale-across platforms, reinforcing our unique position in the market as the AI infrastructure provider. Customer interest in NVLink Fusion continues to grow. We announced a strategic collaboration with Fujitsu in October, where we will integrate Fujitsu's CPUs and NVIDIA GPUs via NVLink Fusion, connecting our large ecosystems. We also announced a collaboration with Intel to develop multiple generations of custom data center and PC products, connecting NVIDIA and Intel's ecosystems using NVLink. This week at Supercomputing 25, ARM announced that it will be integrating NVLink IP for customers to build CPU SoCs that connect with NVIDIA. Currently on its 5th generation, NVLink is the only proven scale-up technology available on the market today. In the latest MLPerf training results, Blackwell Ultra delivered 5x faster time to train than Hopper. NVIDIA swept every benchmark. Notably, NVIDIA is the only training platform to leverage FP4 while meeting the MLPerf's strict accuracy standards. In semi-analysis inference max benchmark, Blackwell achieved the highest performance and lowest total cost of ownership across every model and use case. Particularly important is Blackwell's NVLink's performance on a mixture of experts, the architecture for the world's most popular reasoning models. On DeepSeek R1, Blackwell delivered 10x higher performance per watt and 10x lower cost per token versus H200, a huge generational leap fueled by our extreme co-design approach. NVIDIA Dynamo, an open source, low latency, modular inference framework, has now been adopted by every major cloud service provider. Leveraging Dynamo's enablement and disaggregated inference, the resulting increase in performance of complex AI models, such as MOE models, AWS, Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure, and OCI, have boosted AI inference performance for enterprise cloud customers. We are working on a strategic partnership with OpenAI focused on helping them build and deploy at least 10 gigawatts of AI data centers. In addition, we have the opportunity to invest in the company. We serve OpenAI through their cloud partners, Microsoft Azure, OCI, and CoreWeave. We will continue to do so for the foreseeable future. As they continue to scale, we are delighted to support the company to add self-build infrastructure, and we are working toward a definitive agreement and are excited to support OpenAI's growth. Yesterday, we celebrated an announcement with Anthropic. For the first time, Anthropic is adopting Nvidia, and we are establishing a deep technology partnership to support Anthropic's fast growth. We will collaborate to optimize Anthropic models for CUDA and deliver the best possible performance, efficiency, and TCO. We will also optimize future NVIDIA architectures for Anthropic workloads. Anthropic's compute commitment is initially including up to 1 gigawatt of compute capacity with Grace Blackwell and Vera Rubin systems. Our strategic investments in Anthropic, Mistral, OpenAI, Reflection, Thinking Machines, and other represent partnerships that grow the NVIDIA CUDA AI ecosystem and enable every model to run optimally on NVIDIA's everywhere. We will continue to invest strategically while preserving our disciplined approach to cash flow management. Physical AI is already a multi-billion-dollar business addressing a multi-trillion-dollar opportunity and the next leg of growth for NVIDIA. Leading US manufacturers and robotics innovators are leveraging NVIDIA's 3-computer architecture to train on NVIDIA, test on Omniverse computer, and deploy real-world AI on Jetson robotic computers. PTC and Siemens introduced new services that bring Omniverse-powered digital twin workflows to their extensive installed base of customers. Companies including Belden, Caterpillar, Foxconn, Lucid Motors, Toyota, TSMC, and Wistron are building Omniverse digital twin factories to accelerate AI-driven manufacturing and automation. Agility Robotics, Amazon Robotics, Figure, and Skilled at AI are building our platform, tapping offerings such as NVIDIA Cosmos World Foundation models for development, Omniverse for simulation and validation, and Jetson to power next-generation intelligent robots. We remain focused on building resiliency and redundancy in our global supply chain. Last month, in partnership with TSMC, we celebrated the first Blackwell wafer produced on US soil. We will continue to work with Foxconn, Wistron, Amkor, Spill, and others to grow our presence in the US over the next 4 years. Gaming revenue was $4.3 billion, up 30% year on year, driven by strong demand as Blackwell momentum continued. End market sell-through remains robust, and channel inventories are at normal levels heading into the holiday season. Steam recently broke its concurrent user record with 42 million gamers, while thousands of fans packed the GeForce Gamer Festival in South Korea to celebrate 25 years of GeForce. NVIDIA Pro Visualization has evolved into computers for engineers and developers, whether for graphics or for AI. Professional visualization revenue was $760 million, up 56% year over year, was another record. Growth was driven by DGX Spark, the world's smallest AI supercomputer, built on a small configuration of Grace Blackwell. Automotive revenue was $592 million, up 32% year over year, primarily driven by self-driving solutions. We are partnering with Uber to scale the world's largest Level 4 ready autonomous fleet, built on the new NVIDIA Hyperion L4 robotaxi reference architecture. Moving to the rest of the P&L, GAAP gross margins were 73.4%, and non-GAAP gross margins was 73.6%, exceeding our outlook. Gross margins increased sequentially due to our data center mix, improved cycle time, and cost structure. GAAP operating expenses were up 8% sequentially and up 11% on non-GAAP basis. The growth was driven by infrastructure compute, as well as higher compensation and benefits and engineering development costs. Non-GAAP effective tax rate for the third quarter was just over 17%, higher than our guidance of 16.5% due to the strong U.S. revenue. On our balance sheet, inventory grew 32% quarter over quarter, while supply commitments increased 63% sequentially. We are preparing for significant growth ahead and feel good about our ability to execute against our opportunity set. Okay, let me turn to the outlook for the fourth quarter. Total revenue is expected to be $65 billion, plus or minus 2%. At the midpoint, our outlook implies 14% sequential growth, driven by continued momentum in the Blackwell architecture. Consistent with last quarter, we are not assuming any data center compute revenue from China. GAAP and non-GAAP gross margins are expected to be 74.8% and 75%, respectively, plus or minus 50 basis points. Looking ahead to fiscal year 2027, input costs are on the rise, but we are working to hold gross margins in the mid-70s. GAAP and non-GAAP operating expenses are expected to be approximately $6.7 billion and $5 billion, respectively. GAAP and non-GAAP other income and expenses are expected to be an income of approximately $500 million, excluding gains and losses from non-marketable and publicly held equity securities. GAAP and non-GAAP tax rates are expected to be 17%, plus or minus 1%, excluding any discrete items. At this time, let me turn the call over to Jensen for him to say a few words.
Thanks, Colette. There's been a lot of talk about an AI bubble. From our vantage point, we see something very different. As a reminder, Nvidia is unlike any other accelerator. We excel at every phase of AI, from pre-training and post-training to inference. And with our 2-decade investment in CUDA-X acceleration libraries, we are also exceptional at science and engineering simulations, computer graphics, structured data processing, to classical machine learning. The world is undergoing 3 massive platform shifts at once. The first time since the dawn of Moore's Law. Nvidia is uniquely addressing each of the 3 transformations. The first transition is from CPU general purpose computing to GPU accelerated computing, as Moore's Law slows. The world has a massive investment in non-AI software, from data processing to science and engineering simulations, representing hundreds of billions of dollars in cloud computing spend each year. Many of these applications, which ran once exclusively on CPUs, are now rapidly shifting to CUDA GPUs. Accelerated computing has reached a tipping point. Secondly, AI has also reached a tipping point and is transforming existing applications while enabling entirely new ones. For existing applications, generative AI is replacing classical machine learning in search ranking, recommender systems, ad targeting, click-through prediction, to content moderation, the very foundations of hyperscale infrastructure. Meta's GEM, a foundation model for ad recommendations trained on large-scale GPU clusters, exemplifies this shift. In Q2, Meta reported over a 5% increase in ad conversions on Instagram and 3% gain on Facebook feed, driven by generative AI-based GEM. Transitioning to generative AI represents substantial revenue gains for hyperscalers. Now, a new wave is rising. Agentic AI systems, capable of reasoning, planning, and using tools. From coding assistants like Cursor and Claude Code to radiology tools like iDoc, legal assistants like Harvey, and AI chauffeurs like Tesla FSD and Waymo. These systems mark the next frontier of computing. The fastest growing companies in the world today, OpenAI, Anthropic, xAI, Google, Cursor, Lovable, Replit, Cognition AI, OpenEvidence, Abridge, Tesla, are pioneering agentic AI. So there are three massive platform shifts. The transition to accelerated computing is foundational and necessary, essential in a post-Moore's Law era. The transition to generative AI is transformational and necessary, supercharging existing applications and business models. And the transition to agentic and physical AI will be revolutionary, giving rise to new applications, companies, products, and services. As you consider infrastructure investments, consider these three fundamental dynamics. Each will contribute to infrastructure growth in the coming years. NVIDIA is chosen because our singular architecture enables all three transitions, and does so for any form and modality of AI, across all industries, across every phase of AI, across all of the diverse computing needs in a cloud, and also from cloud to enterprise to robots. One architecture. Toshiya, back to you.
We will now open the call for questions. Operator, would you please poll for questions?
Thank you. At this time, I would like to remind everyone, in order to ask a question, press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. We'll pause for just a moment to compile the Q&A roster. As a reminder, please limit yourself to one question. Thank you. Your first question comes from Joseph Moore with Morgan Stanley. Your line is open.
Great, thank you. I wonder if you could update us. You talked about the $500 billion of revenue for Blackwell plus Rubin in 25 and 26 at GTC. At that time, you had talked about $150 billion of that already having been shipped. So as the quarter's wrapped up, are those still kind of the general parameters that there's $350 billion in the next kind of 14 months or so? And I would assume over that time you haven't seen all the demand that there is. There's any possibility of upside to those numbers as we move forward?
Yeah, thanks, Joe. I'll start first with a response here on that. Yes, that's correct. We are working into our $500 billion forecast, and we are on track for that as we have finished some of the quarters, and now we have several quarters now in front of us to take us through the end of calendar year 26. The number will grow, and we will achieve, I'm sure, additional needs for compute that will be shippable by fiscal year 26. So we shipped 50 billion this quarter, but we would be not finished if we didn't say that we'll probably be taking more orders. For example, just even today, our announcements with KSA, and that agreement in itself is 400 to 600,000 more GPUs over 3 years. Anthropic is also net new. So there's definitely an opportunity for us to have more on top of the 500 billion that we announced.
The next question comes from CJ Muse with Cantor Fitzgerald. Your line is open.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you for taking the question. There's clearly a great deal of consternation around the magnitude of AI infrastructure build-outs and the ability to fund such plans and the ROI. Yet, at the same time, you're talking about being sold out. Every stood-up GP is taken. The AI world hasn't seen the enormous benefit yet, from B300, never mind Rubin. and Gemini 3 just announced Grok 5 coming soon. And so the question is this: when you look at that as the backdrop, do you see a realistic path for supply to catch up with demand over the next 12 to 18 months, or do you think it can extend beyond that time frame?
Well, as you know, we've done a really good job planning our supply chain. NVIDIA's supply chain basically includes every technology company in the world. And TSMC and their packaging and our memory vendors and memory partners and all of our system ODMs have done a really good job planning with us. And we were planning for a big year. You know, we've seen for some time the three transitions that I spoke about just a second ago: accelerated computing from general purpose computing. And it's really important to recognize that AI is not just agentic AI, but generative AI is transforming the way that hyperscalers did the work that they used to do on CPUs. Generative AI made it possible for them to move search and recommender systems and, you know, add recommendations and targeting. All of that has been moved to generative AI, and it's still transitioning. And so whether you installed NVIDIA GPUs for data processing, or you did it for generative AI for your recommender system, or you're building it for agentic chatbots and the type of AIs that most people see when they think about AI, all of those applications are accelerated by NVIDIA. And so when you look at the totality of the spend, it's really important to think about each one of those layers. They're all growing. They're related, but not the same. But the wonderful thing is that they all run on NVIDIA GPUs. Simultaneously, because the quality of the AI models are improving so incredibly, the adoption of it in the different use cases, whether it's in code assistance, which NVIDIA uses fairly exhaustively, and we're not the only one. I mean, the fastest growing application in history, combination of Cursor and Claude Code and OpenAI's Codex and GitHub Copilot. These applications are the fastest growing in history. And it's not just used for software engineers. It's used because of vibe coding, it's used by engineers and marketeers all over companies, supply chain planners all over companies. And so I think that that's just one example, and the list goes on, you know, whether it's open evidence and the work that they do in healthcare, or the work that's being done in digital video editing, Runway. And I mean, the number of really, really exciting startups that are taking advantage of generative AI and agentic AI is growing quite rapidly. And not to mention, we're all using it a lot more. And so all of these exponentials, not to mention, you know, just today I was reading a text from Demis, and he was saying that pre-training and post-training are fully intact, you know, and Gemini 3 takes advantage of the scaling laws and received a huge jump in quality performance, model performance. And so we're seeing all of these exponentials kind of running at the same time. And just always go back to first principles and think about what's happening from each one of the dynamics that I mentioned before, general purpose computing to accelerated computing, generative AI replacing classical machine learning, and of course, agentic AI, which is a brand new category.
The next question comes from Vivek Arya with Bank of America Securities. Your line is open.
Thanks for taking my question. I'm curious, what assumptions are you making on NVIDIA content per gigawatt in that 500 billion number? Because we have heard, you know, numbers as low as 25 billion per gigawatt of content to as high as 30 or 40 billion per gigawatt. So I'm curious what power and what dollar per gigawatt assumptions you are making as part of that 500 billion number. And then longer term, Jensen, the 3 to 4 trillion in data center by 2030 was mentioned. How much of that do you think will require vendor financing, and how much of that can be supported by cash flows of your large customers or governments or enterprises? Thank you.
In each generation, from Ampere to Hopper, from Hopper to Blackwell, Blackwell to Rubin, a part of the data center increases. And Hopper generation was probably something along the lines of 20 some odd, 20 to 25. Blackwell generation, Grace Blackwell particularly, is probably 30 to 30, say 30 plus or minus. And then Rubin is probably higher than that. And in each one of these generations, the speed up is X factors. And therefore their TCO, the customer TCO, improves by X factors. And the most important thing is, in the end, you still only have 1 gigawatt of power. 1 gigawatt data centers, 1 gigawatt of power. And therefore, performance per watt, the efficiency of your architecture, is incredibly important. And the efficiency of your architecture can't be brute forced. There is no brute forcing about it. That 1 gigawatt translates directly, your performance per watt translates directly, absolutely directly to your revenues, which is the reason why choosing the right architecture matters so much now. The world doesn't have an excess of anything to squander. And so we have to be really, really, we use this concept called co-design across our entire stack, across the frameworks and models, across the entire data center, even power and cooling optimized across the entire supply chain in our ecosystem. And so each generation, our economic contribution will be greater, our value delivered will be greater, but the most important thing is our energy efficiency per watt is going to be extraordinary every single generation. With respect to growing into continuing to grow, our customers' financing is up to them. We see the opportunity to grow for quite some time. And remember, today, most of the focus has been on the hyperscalers. And one of the areas that is really misunderstood about the hyperscalers is that the investment on Nvidia GPUs not only improves their scale, speed, and cost from general purpose computing. That's number one, because Moore's law scaling has really slowed. Moore's law is about driving costs down. It's about deflationary cost, the incredible deflationary cost of computing over time, but that has slowed. Therefore, a new approach is necessary for them to keep driving the cost down. Going to NVIDIA GPU computing is really the best way to do so. The second is revenue boosting in their current business models. Recommender systems drive the world's hyperscalers. Every single, whether it's watching short form videos or recommending books or recommending the next item in your basket, to recommending ads, to recommending news, it's all about recommenders. The internet has trillions of pieces of content. How could they possibly figure out what to put in front of you in your little tiny screen unless they have really sophisticated recommender systems to do so? Well, that has gone generative AI. So the first two things that I've just said, hundreds of billions of dollars of CapEx is going to have to be invested, is fully cash flow funded. What is above it, therefore, is agentic AI. This is revenue, is net new consumption, but it's also net new applications. And some of the applications I mentioned before, but these new applications are also the fastest growing applications in history. Okay, so I think that you're going to see that once people start to appreciate what is actually happening under the water, if you will, from the simplistic view of what's happening to CapEx investment, recognizing there's these three dynamics. And then lastly, remember, we were just talking about the American CSPs. Each country will fund their own infrastructure. And you have multiple countries, you have multiple industries. Most of the world's industries haven't really engaged agentic AI yet, and they're about to. All the names of companies that we're working with, whether it's autonomous vehicle companies or digital twins for physical AI for factories, and the number of factories and warehouses being built around the world, just the number of digital biology startups that are being funded so that we could accelerate drug discovery. All of those different industries are now getting engaged, and they're going to do their own fundraising. And so don't just look at the hyperscalers as a way to build out for the future. You got to look at the world. You got to look at all the different industries, and enterprise computing is going to fund their own industry.
The next question comes from Ben Reitzes with Melius. Your line is open.
Hey, thanks a lot. Jensen, I wanted to ask you about cash. Speaking of $500 billion, you may generate about $500 billion in free cash flow over the next couple of years. What are your plans for that cash? How much goes to buyback versus investing in the ecosystem? And how do you look at investing in the ecosystem? I think there's just a lot of confusion out there about how these deals work and your criteria for doing those, like the Anthropic, the OpenAIs, et cetera. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, appreciate the question. Of course, using cash to fund our growth. No company has ever grown at the scale that we're talking about and have the connection and the depth and the breadth of supply chain that Nvidia has. The reason why our entire customer base can rely on us is because we've secured a really resilient supply chain, and we have the balance sheet to support them. When we make purchases, our suppliers can take it to the bank. When we make forecasts and we plan with them, they take us seriously because of our balance sheet. We're not making up the offtake. We know what our offtake is. And because they've been planning with us for so many years, our reputation and our credibility is incredible. And so it takes really strong balance sheet to do that, to support the level of growth and the rate of growth and the magnitude associated with that. So that's number one. The second thing, of course, we're going to continue to do stock buybacks. We're going to continue to do that. But with respect to the investments, this is really, really important work that we do. All of the investments that we've done so far, period, is associated with expanding the reach of CUDA, expanding the ecosystem. If you look at the work, the investments that we did with OpenAI, it's, of course, that relationship we've had since 2016. I delivered the first AI supercomputer ever made to OpenAI. And so we've had a close and wonderful relationship with OpenAI since then. And everything that OpenAI does runs on NVIDIA today. So all the clouds that they deploy in, whether it's training and inference, runs NVIDIA, and we love working with them. The partnership that we have with them is one so that we could work even deeper from a technical perspective, so that we could support their accelerated growth. This is a company that's growing incredibly fast. And don't just look at what is said in the press. Look at all the ecosystem partners and all the developers that are connected to OpenAI. And they're all driving consumption of it. And the quality of the AI that's being produced, huge step up since a year ago. And so the quality of response is extraordinary. So we invest in OpenAI for a deep partnership in co-development to expand our ecosystem and to support their growth. And of course, rather than giving up a share of our company, we get a share of their company. And we invested in them in one of the most consequential once-in-a-generation company that we have a share of. And so I fully expect that investment to translate to extraordinary returns. Now, in the case of Anthropic, this is the first time that Anthropic will be on NVIDIA's architecture. The first time Anthropic will be on NVIDIA's architecture is the second most successful AI in the world in terms of total number of users. But in enterprise, they're doing incredibly well. Claude Code is doing incredibly well. Claude is doing incredibly well all over the world's enterprise. And now we have the opportunity to have a deep partnership with them and bringing Claude onto the NVIDIA platform. And so what do we have now? NVIDIA's architecture, taking a step back, NVIDIA's architecture, NVIDIA's platform is the singular platform in the world that runs every AI model. We run OpenAI, we run Anthropic, we run xAI, because of our deep partnership with Elon and XAI, we were able to bring that opportunity to Saudi Arabia, to the KSA, so that Humane could also be a hosting opportunity for XAI. We run XAI, we run Gemini, we run thinking machines. Let's see, what else do we run? We run them all. And so not to mention, we run the science models, the biology models, DNA models, gene models, chemical models, and all the different fields around the world. It's not just cognitive AI that the world uses. AI is impacting every single industry. And so we have the ability, through the ecosystem investments that we make, to deeply partner on a technical basis with some of the best companies, most brilliant companies in the world. We're expanding the reach of our ecosystem, and we're getting a share and investment in what will be a very successful company, oftentimes once in a generation company. And so that's our investment thesis.
The next question comes from Jim Schneider with Goldman Sachs. Your line is open.
Good afternoon. Thanks for taking my question. In the past, you've talked about roughly 40% of your shipments tied to AI inference. I'm wondering, as you look forward into next year, where do you expect that percentage could go in say, a year's time? And can you maybe address the Rubin CPX product you expect to introduce next year and contextualize that? How big of the overall TAM you expect that can take, and maybe talk about some of the target customer applications for that specific product? Thank you.
CPX is designed for long context type of workload generation. And so long context, basically, before you start generating answers, you have to read a lot, basically, long context. And it could be a bunch of PDFs, it could be watching a bunch of videos, studying 3D images, so on and so forth. You have to absorb the context. And so CPX is designed for long context type of workloads. And its perf per dollar is excellent. Its perf per watt is excellent. And which made me forget the first part of the question.
Inferencing.
Oh, inference. Yeah, there are three scaling laws that are scaling at the same time. The first scaling law, called pre-training, continues to be very effective. And the second is post-training. Post-training basically has found incredible algorithms for improving an AI's ability to break a problem down and solve a problem step by step. And post-training is scaling exponentially. Basically, the more compute you apply to a model, the smarter it is, the more intelligent it is. And then the third is inference. Inference, because of chain of thought, because of reasoning capabilities, AIs are essentially reading, thinking before it answers. And the amount of computation necessary as a result of those three things has gone completely exponential. I think that it's hard to know exactly what the percentage will be at any given point in time and who. But of course, our hope is that inference is a very large part of the market, because if inference is large, then what it suggests is that people are using it in more applications, and they're using it more frequently. And that's, we should all hope for inference to be very large. And this is where Grace Blackwell is just an order of magnitude better, more advanced than anything in the world. The second best platform is H200. And it's very clear now that GB200, GB300, because of NVLink 72, the scale-up network that we have, achieve, and you saw, and Colette talked about in the semi-analysis benchmark, it's the largest single inference benchmark ever done. And GB200, NVLink 72, is 10 to 15 times higher performance. And so that's a big step up. It's going to take a long time before somebody is able to take that on. And our leadership there is surely multi-year. Yeah. And so I'm hoping that inference becomes a very big deal. Our leadership in inference is extraordinary.
The next question comes from Timothy Arcuri with UBS. Your line is open.
Thanks a lot. Jensen, many of your customers are pursuing behind-the-meter power, but what's the single biggest bottleneck that worries you that could constrain your growth? Is it power, or maybe it's financing, or maybe it's something else like memory or even foundry? Thanks a lot.
Well, these are all issues, and they're all constraints. And the reason for that, when you're growing at the rate that we are and the scale that we are, how could anything be easy? What NVIDIA is doing obviously has never been done before. And we've created a whole new industry. Now, on the one hand, we are transitioning computing from general purpose and classical or traditional computing to accelerated computing and AI. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, we created a whole new industry called AI factories. The idea that in order for software to run, you need these factories to generate every single token instead of retrieving information that was pre-created. And so I think this whole transition requires extraordinary scale. And all the way from the supply chain, of course, the supply chain we have much better visibility and control over because obviously we're incredibly good at managing our supply chain. We have great partners that we've worked with for 33 years. And so the supply chain part of it, we're quite confident. Now, looking down our supply chain, we've now established partnerships with so many players in land and power and shell, and of course, financing. These things, none of these things are easy, but they're all tractable and they're all solvable things. And the most important thing that we have to do is do a good job planning. We plan up the supply chain, down the supply chain. We have established a whole lot of partners, and so we have a lot of routes to market. And very importantly, our architecture has to deliver the best value to the customers that we have. And so at this point, I'm very confident that NVIDIA's architecture is the best performance per TCO. It is the best performance per watt, and therefore for any amount of energy that is delivered, our architecture will drive the most revenues. And I think the increasing rate of our success, I think that we're more successful this year at this point than we were last year at this point. The number of customers coming to us and the number of platforms coming to us after they've explored others is increasing, not decreasing. And so I think I think all of that is just all the things that I've been telling you over the years are really coming true and or becoming evident.
The next question comes from Stacy Rasgon with Bernstein Research. Your line is open.
Questions. Colette, I had some questions on margins. You said for next year you're working to hold them in the mid-70s. So I guess, first of all, what are the biggest cost increases? Is it just memory or is it something else? What are you doing to work toward that? How much is cost optimizations versus pre-buys versus pricing? And then also, how should we think about OpEx growth next year, given the revenues seem likely to grow materially from where we're running right now?
Thanks, Stacey. Let me see if I can start with remembering where we were with the current fiscal year that we're in. Remember, earlier this year, we indicated that through cost improvements and mix that we would exit the year in our gross margins in the mid-70s. We've achieved that and getting ready to also execute that in Q4. So now it's time for us to communicate where are we working right now in terms of next year. Next year, there are input prices that are well known in the industries that we need to work through. And our systems are by no means very easy to work with. There are a tremendous amount of components, many different parts of it as we think about that. So we're taking all of that into account, but we do believe if we look at working again on cost improvements, cycle time, and mix that we will work to try and hold at our gross margins in the mid 70s. So that's our overall plan for gross margin. Your second question is around OpEx. And right now, our goal in terms of OpEx is to really make sure that we are innovating with our engineering teams, with all of our business teams, to create more and more systems for this market. As you know, right now we have a new architecture coming out, and that means they are quite busy in order to meet that goal. And so we're going to continue to see our investments on innovating more and more, both our software, both our systems, and our hardware to do so. I'll turn it to Jensen if he wants to add in a couple more comments.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. I think the only thing that I would add is remember that we plan, we forecast, we plan, and we negotiate with our supply chain well in advance. Our supply chain have known for quite a long time our requirements, and they've known for quite a long time our demand, and we've been working with them and negotiating with them for quite a long time. And so I think the recent surge, obviously quite significant, but remember our supply chain has been working with us for a very long time, and so in many cases we've secured a lot of supply for ourselves, because obviously they're working with the largest company in the world in doing so, and we've also been working closely with them on the financial aspects of it, and securing forecasts and plans and so on and so forth. So I think all of that has worked out well for us.
Your final question comes from the line of Aaron Rakers with Wells Fargo. Your line is open.
Yeah, thanks for taking the question. Jensen, the question's for you. As you think about the Anthropic deal that was announced and just the overall breadth of your customers, I'm curious if your thoughts around the role that AI ASICs or dedicated XPUs play in these architecture build-outs has changed at all. Have you seen, I think you've been fairly adamant in the past that some of these programs never really see deployments, but I'm curious if we're at a point where maybe that's even changed more in favor of just GPU architecture. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, and I really appreciate the question. So first of all, you're not competing against teams. You're against a company. You're competing against teams, and there just aren't that many teams in the world who are extraordinary at building these incredibly complicated things. Back in the Hopper day and the Ampere days, we would build one GPU. That's the definition of an accelerated AI system. But today, we've got to build entire racks, three different types of switches: a scale up, a scale out, and a scale across switch. And it takes a lot more than one chip to build a compute node anymore. Everything about that computing system, because AI needs to have memory. AI didn't used to have memory at all. Now it has to remember things. The amount of memory and context it has is gigantic. The memory architecture implication is incredible. The diversity of models, from mixture of experts to dense models to diffusion models to autoregressive, not to mention, biological models that obeys the laws of physics. The list of different types of models has exploded in the last several years. And so the challenge is the complexity of the problem is much higher. The diversity of AI models is incredibly large. And so this is where, if I will say, the 5 things that makes us special, if you will. The first thing I would say that makes us special is that we accelerate every phase of that transition. That's the first phase. That CUDA allows us to have CUDA X for transitioning from general purpose to accelerated computing. We're incredibly good at generative AI. We're incredibly good at agentic AI. So every single phase of that, every single layer of that transition, we are excellent at. You can invest in one architecture, use it across the board. You can use one architecture and not worry about the changes in the workload across those 3 phases. That's number 1. Number 2, we're excellent at every phase of AI. Everybody's always known that we're incredibly good at pre-training. We're obviously very good at post-training, and we're incredibly good as it turns out, at inference, because inference is really, really hard. How could thinking be easy? People think that inference is one shot and therefore it's easy. Anybody could approach the market that way. But it turns out to be the hardest of all, because thinking, as it turns out, is quite hard. We're great at every phase of AI, the second thing. The third thing is we're now the only architecture in the world that runs every AI model, every frontier AI model. We run open source AI models incredibly well. We run science models, biology models, robotics models. We run every single model. We're the only architecture in the world that can claim that. It doesn't matter whether you're autoregressive or diffusion based. We run everything. And we run it for every major platform, as I just mentioned. So we run every model. And then the fourth thing I would say is that we're in every cloud. The reason why developers love us is because we're literally everywhere. We're in every cloud. We're in every, we could even make you a little tiny cloud called DGX Spark. And so we're in every computer. We're everywhere, from cloud to on-prem to robotic systems, edge devices, PCs, you name it. One architecture, things just work. It's incredible. And then the last thing, and this is probably the most important thing, the fifth thing, is if you are a cloud service provider, if you're a new company like Humane, if you're a new company like CoreWeave or Nscale or Nebius, or OCI for that matter, the reason why NVIDIA is the best platform for you is because our offtake is so diverse. We can help you with offtake. It's not about just putting a random ASIC into a data center. Where's the offtake coming from? Where's the diversity coming from? Where's the resilience coming from? The versatility of the architecture coming from, the diversity of capability coming from. NVIDIA has such incredibly good offtake because our ecosystem is so large. So these 5 things, every phase of acceleration and transition, every phase of AI, every model, every cloud to on-prem, and of course, finally, it all leads to offtake.
Thank you. I will now turn the call to Toshiya Hari for closing remarks.
In closing, please note we will be at the UBS Global Technology and AI Conference on December 2nd, and our earnings call to discuss the results of our fourth quarter of fiscal 2026 is scheduled for February 25th. Thank you for joining us today. Operator, please go ahead and close the call.
Thank you. This concludes today's conference call. You may now disconnect.
All right, guys. So that is it for today's Nvidia earnings call. Nvidia's still up a huge amount from this call. Looks like the implied volatility was actually correct because we're up about, 7%, 8% right now. I have to calculate it, but something like that. 195 roughly right now for Nvidia. Let me know what you guys think. Remember, guys, tomorrow we have the NFP report that we missed for September. It's an incredibly important report. We're not going to get another, just to put the context out there of how important this is, we're not going to get another labor report before the December meeting. So we will not get another labor report after this for the December meeting on December 10th. So this report is going to guide the Fed, even though it's a little bit more delayed. Incredibly important report, 8:30 Eastern Standard Time tomorrow. Be there, or I'll hate you forever. Again, if you want to help support the channel, subscribe, hit the notification bell. You can give me a follow at Beginner Trades. Great way to help support the channel. I appreciate it. You can check out Top Step. If you want to learn to day trade, there's not a better option in my opinion. Most day traders lose money. It's the best way to learn. $50 a month. You can start out, get a kind of a souped up demo account. If you pass the test, they fund you $50K. If you fail, you lose $50. 90% split once you're funded. They pay out millions, fund thousands. You can reset funded accounts, all that good stuff. I'll put the link up. I'm biased, of course. Understand all this stuff on screen. I can't guarantee anything. I'm not an investment professional. I'm not liable if you lose money. And yeah, make your own assessment. Trade smart, guys. Listen, I've been streaming all day, so I'm going to get out of here. I'm tired of streaming. I love you guys, but I'm tired of streaming. I'm going to get out of here. Y'all be good. Have a great day. See you guys tomorrow. Again, as soon as I close the stream, let me make sure it's going to bring you to tomorrow's stream. Carol's sticking her head. I'm still here. Like I said, I'm not closing the stream. Hold on. Make sure it's redirected. Okay, yeah. As soon as I close the stream, it'll bring you there. All right, guys.